the last of our semifinal matches here at the Star City Games Columbus Invitational. We have Ryan Fleisher on Bant Company. He was the number 4 seed in the top 8, playing against Craig Krempels, fellow caster here at the desk, showing his magic chop this weekend on a semifinals finish. They are competing for the right to face off against Max McVitie and Mono White Humans in the final. Both players are piloting Bant Company.
Settling in for a long mirror match. Interesting implications for McVitie. If Krempels wins, McVitie is on the play in the finals. If Fleischer wins, he's on the draw.
All right, so Fleischer will be on the play this time. Both players just playing some Lumbering Falls to start out the game. We do see with these decks now there are some 2-drops in on each side, but sometimes the mana doesn't come together to cast them, and even then, I don't see the players giving much priority to the 2-mana spells.
Right, you're not going to really run away with too many games in this mirror. As long as both players are hitting land drops and casting spells, everything lines up just in a way where the game is going to end up being drawn out.
All right, the first play of the game then will be from Fleischer. On turn 3, it's a copy of Tireless Tracker. This is the 3-2. It's the rare from Shadows over Innistrad. It's one of the really stronger adoptions we've seen as the Bant Company decks, starting with 2, I believe, in Jim Davis's deck, now moving up to 3, and as you mentioned, 4 in Fleischer's list.
Right, and when you get multiple copies in play, you make a clue for every land drop. It's a creature that is able to become larger than the other creatures in the deck, you know, with a bunch of Bounding Krasis and Reflector Mage, so you just kind of bounce off each other. Combat gets kind of awkward. Tireless Tracker can just become huge and make whether to attack or not kind of a non-question.
Well, the Tracker is going to have to go back to Ryan Fleischer's hand. Craig had to turn through Reflector Mage to answer it. Now, Reflector Mage may be the most important card in this matchup.
Maybe the most important card in Standard. It really defines a lot of what you're able to do.
All right, so we go back to Fleischer. He plays a 4th land. This is the spot where you could cast Collected Company. He's going to play Sylvan Advocate and leave up 2 mana.
2 mana looks like a lot like a Dromoka's Command here. I assume that we're representing that spell. We won't necessarily have a great window to cast it for Fleischer. You have the option to fight the Reflector Mage and make the Advocate a 3-4, but I think that there's a good chance that he'll be sitting on that.
Yeah, we see that Dromoka's Command in Craig's hand. He does have 2 Prairie Streams. Now, those are still coming into play tapped for the time being. But I believe a basic island is joining them.
If Craig was feeling aggressive, he could force the issue Dromoka's Command on his Advocate and start the fight the other way, though. If Fleischer had a command, that would make that play really bad.
It looks like Craig is also just digging in for the long fight. You see Tireless Tracker from him, plays an island, gets a clue, and passes the turn.
And the Tireless Tracker, when you have 4 mana, you can immediately make that land drop. It's a lot like the creature entered the battlefield and made a clue. So on that turn, it has done more for Craig so far than it has done for Fleischer.
Yeah, well, he can keep pace. Fleischer still has that Tireless Tracker in his hand. It's no longer reflected there.
Right, coming off the bench at this point in time. Hopefully Fleischer has a land drop to follow it up so he can match that value.
Yep, Tireless Tracker. Prairie Stream makes a clue. And now if he has a Dromoka's Command, this would be a great opportunity to use it. You see leaving up those pair, the Lumbering Falls and Prairie Stream.
Yeah, cleaning up this Tireless Tracker is a lot bigger than cleaning up the Reflector Mage previously would have been.
Right. No command, though. He'll just pass with 2 mana up back to Krempels. It seems like each player, not only, you know, they're playing this in a slower way than we even see players typically play this matchup. Each of them seems to think that the priority is not to get aggressive. It's to, you know, it's not even resolving Collected Companies. Both of them are trying to max value their Tireless Trackers here, which is a real bold statement about how they expect this game to go.
They know that they are in for a long game, certainly a long match. You just want to get this value. If you expend resources, say Dromoka's Command using it as a removal spell when you could be establishing your board, you'll get a chip shot in, maybe be able to have 2 favorable combats, but even still, the game is going to go long.
We see land 5 from Krempels. That gives him a 2nd token. And now, for the first attack we actually see in the game, he'll attack with his own Tireless Tracker.
With the 2 clues on the table, he's able to turn this into a 4-5.
I really like what's happening here. So Ryan's going to block. And what I expect Craig is doing is he's going to try to crack a clue. Maybe he's going to try to win combat by cracking clues. If Ryan responds by cracking his own clue, Craig has a Dromoka's Command at the ready.
Yeah, I'm going to try to trap him there. If Craig had access to 6 mana,
then he'd have the full trap.
That would be excellent. Here we might just see him go ahead and trade.
Yeah, so we'll see the 2 creatures about to fight. Well, if any player wants to make an action before, the action's first on Craig. He says no. Ryan says no. Well, it looks like they will trade.
Yeah, again, Craig on 6 mana, he would have a lot more to leverage going into that combat. No reason to get tricky. He already has his 2 clues in play. You get the tracker off the other side of the table.
Well, it's still a great play there from Craig because he got an extra clue at the end of the day. On end step, Ryan will use his remaining 2 mana to crack his clue. Well, while he is tapped out on Craig's end step, Craig uses that Dromoka's command in his hand to have Reflector Mage fight Sylvan Advocate and win. So Ryan goes back to his turn with no board, and he's facing against a 3-4 on Craig's side and still 2 unused clue tokens. A lot of trading here, but Craig is gaining the card advantage.
That fight was pretty good for Craig, too, because Fleisher was just 1 land off of making his Advocate into a 4-5, and he also has a Lumbering Falls, so I liked cleaning that out quite a lot.
Now we see some moves from Fleisher. He plays Tireless Tracker number 2, plays a land to get a clue, plays Tireless Tracker number 3. He said he has the full play set in his list today.
Yes, and it is excellent in this mirror, and you'll notice in the main deck for these Band Company decks, no copies of Declaration in Stone, no real way for Craig to punish having 2 on the table, so having drawn both of these cards is excellent for Fleisher.
Yeah, it's really a good thing that he knows that Craig has no copies of that, at least in the main deck.
Right, some players were playing 2, maybe 3 copies this weekend, though with deck lists being public information, we know that these players are just under Mocha's command for removal.
So you go back to Krempels, he cracks one of those clue tokens on the end step here. Now he'll play land number 6. Now he doesn't have a Sylvan Advocate, but he'll swing with Reflector Mage. Maybe we'll see our first life total change, and it looks like we will. Fleisher to 17.
Fleisher could have double blocked and only given up 1 creature, but his creatures matter a lot more than Reflector Mage, even with it being a 3-4.
And here's some size on Krempels' side. He plays Sylvan Advocate, leaves up 4 mana. The telltale card here, of course, being Collected Company.
One would assume. Cool thing about leaving up 4 mana is you don't have to use it all. Could just be representing Bounding Crisis, and you make your opponent think you could have a lot of things, which is what makes this matchup so skill intensive.
So now you go back to Fleisher. 6 lands in play. Now all his lands will investigate twice. So could really stock up on some clues here.
He gets to investigate twice. When he sacrifices those clues, these trackers just get larger and larger.
They tirelessly try to find Ryan more cards. So Ryan will play land 7. Then he'll cast Reflector Mage, leaving up 4 mana. That's 2 clues. And now he'll swing with the trackers. He's going to swing into a Collected Company. And now we see some cards for Krempels. It may be that he just doesn't care because his creatures are going to get large enough here that the trackers, it's not like he's going to get blown out on the blocks.
Right, he's able to turn them into 5/4 creatures on the combat here. It would take a double block with the number of creatures in the deck would be able to kill a tracker and only take 1 of Craig's creatures down.
Yeah, now I think Craig note, Craig accompanied after, he could have done it before Ryan declared attackers to try to hit a Bounding Crisis. It looks like instead Craig's going to do it after they've declared attackers. He's going to get Bounding Crisis and Reflector Mage. Now his Crisis can be, this is sneaky, can untap his own 3/4 Mage.
Right, get himself another blocker on the table. Interesting question is if Fleisher has something like a Dromoka's command in his hand. That can get messy by having your creatures fight the creatures that they're not necessarily in front of with blocking, though with bouncing one of the trackers, this is much less interesting. I imagine that we'll see this tracker getting eaten in combat.
So, the Reflector Mage and Bounding Crisis and play for Krempels. They'll untap the Reflector Mage. He's going to double block Tireless Tracker. Triple block. Looks like the whole team.
Yeah, the team's getting in front
wants to do this.
The reason that you do this, you want to make sure you kill the tracker, and all your creatures are worth really about the same. Fleisher can kill whatever he wants here.
He only gets to kill 1 of them.
Exactly. Even with 5 power, all of these creatures have at least 3 toughness. Couldn't kill 2 if he wanted to.
And it looks like he's going to go ahead and order the large Reflector Mage, the 3/4 first. Then he'll draw a card off a clue. Now the tracker's a 4/3. So it's big enough to kill the 1 mage. We'll see if he wants. No real reason for him to crack another clue now.
Right. And presumably cracking that first clue is a suggestion that Fleisher didn't have anything better to do with his mana at this juncture. And I was going to say, likely had another 2-drop.
And then he'll play Duskwatch Recruiter.
And it is a very good 2-drop.
Yeah, especially at this point in the game. And this is one of the things I like about this mirror. Okay, both players were getting to turn 7, turn 8. Fleisher, for example, still has a Duskwatch Recruiter and 2 clues. It seems like no matter how many more lands he has in play, he's just able to convert them into cards very easily.
Right, in increments of 3 mana or 2 mana.
Right.
He's able to just fill his hand back up.
So back to Krempels we will go. This is his 7th turn.
So with Craig only having 1 clue still on the table, he's going to be looking for things like Tireless Tracker of his own. Even a Jace Fringe Prodigy would be great here to start looting and maybe flashing some spells back if you're able to flip it. But being behind on the card advantage train, especially with that Duskwatch Recruiter on Fleischer's side, means that Craig is really looking for any of these cards that generate value, not just cards that put power and toughness on the table.
So players are going to reload. Still, life totals are reasonably high. 14 for Fleischer, 20 for Krempels. Now he'll make some 2-drops of his own. It's a Jace, a Duskwatch Recruiter of his own, a pass of the turn, 7th land. So 3 Lumbering Falls in play for Krempels. Now we go back to Fleischer. It just, card advantage seems easy. Winning the game seems difficult.
That is the trick. And one of the cards that both players are going to be looking for here is drawing the first copy of Archangel Avacyn. The ability to fly over the team, in addition to having Vigilance, makes these damage races a lot easier to navigate.
So Ryan will untap with 7 lands. Still 2 uncracked clues and a Duskwatch Recruiter. And he'll replay that tracker. Now keep in mind, when a Reflector Mage enters the battlefield on your opponent's turn, they can actually recast the card on the very next turn, which is what Fleischer's doing. So he plays tracker, plays a land, gets a clue. That's 3 clues in play now. He will play Reflector Mage of his own, bouncing the Jace Fringe Prodigy to Krempels' hand.
Yeah, with 4 cards in Krempels' graveyard, returning to that hand is a nice little swing here for Fleischer.
So I know, looking at the Swiss, this was one of the reasons why I know Jim Davis and his team were playing Eldrazi Displacer, thinking that this was the kind of board where Displacer plus Reflector Mage would really trump things.
Right. If you were able to get 2 colorless mana online, you can just start displacing your Reflector Mage, return stuff to Craig's hand that he won't be able to play for an entire turn cycle, and you can actually just win with your 2/2s and 2/3s.
Neither players are playing that this weekend.
There were some definite issues adding colorless mana as a requirement to this deck that's already 3 colors with a relatively questionable mana base. It is consistent, but it's not perfect.
No, so Ryan actually on his turn there, he tapped out to sacrifice a clue. I think the idea was he wanted to hit another land, which he didn't do. Now we're on Krempels, facing against a tapped out opponent. But still no one really in the market for attacking just yet. You see, neither player has gone to activate their Duskwatch Recruiter yet. I mean, still plenty of cards in the hand for both players, no need.
Right, using 3 mana to draw a card when you already have action is generally ill-advised. Unless your action is just bad, but this deck is so redundant that it's usually true if you have a spell to cast, it's going to be comparable to any other spell you want to cast.
So you're going to attack from Krempels, he'll swing his Bounding Krasis. More than anything, it'll just trade with a creature of Ryan's. I suppose if you're not attacking with Bounding Krasis, it's one of the few creatures in this matchup that has no abilities. Once it's already on the board, it's vanilla. I suppose Reflector Mage being the other.
Right.
Once it's done its thing, you're safe to trade them away. The Recruiter and the Tireless Tracker, much less so. But even with that swing, Ryan does not want to trade a Reflector Mage for the Krasis. He will not block, and he'll drop to 11. So at what point here, life total-wise, does Ryan need to get concerned?
So the decks don't have any form of reach in them. The big thing would be an Archangel Avacyn. So once you actually dip to 4 or below, that's when you're in the danger zone. So keeping your life total above 5, depending on the board state, if you're just behind on creatures, you have to play it a lot differently. You have to make trades aggressively, but 4 is the life total where you start being very concerned about your opponent just casting a spell end step and killing you.
You see Craig, now that he's behind on card advantage, he's really trying to win with tempo. On that turn, after he got the 3 damage in, he tapped 7 to play out his entire hand, which was a Sylvan Advocate, another Sylvan Advocate, and a face-down Morph.
Craig's also probably pretty happy that Ryan is leading with cracking clues. That, once again, suggests that the spells in his hand aren't what he's looking for.
Well, Ryan has a lot of virtual cards on the board, right? He has Duskwatch Recruiter in play, Clues in play. These are all great things, but Craig is ahead on the board and on the scoreboard for life totals. So if he has enough more, he's just hoping to actually put together a lethal swing.
Right, and if Craig's morph here was a hidden Dragon Slayer, it would be able to just kill the Tireless Tracker, which would also be huge.
And he plays one in the main?
Exactly one copy, just like Den Protector, so it's 50-50 which one it is.
Both seem pretty good here, though.
Right, Den Protector would also be solid. We could get back a Dromoka's Command, or...
So Ryan started by cracking 2 clues, played a land to get 1 clue back. Now cast Sylvan Advocate. He has 3 mana up. So 5 creatures on Fleisher's side of the board, including a massive Tireless Tracker. 6 on Krempels' side. One of them, probably the most important one, is that face down either Den Protector or Hidden Dragon Slayer. We're going to find out which as we pass back to Craig Krempels.
Whatever it is, it's good value. Let's find out if it's game-breaking.
Or weird. It's just good.
It's weird with the Dragon Slayer being the game-breaking one and the Den Protector being less good. I'm so used to Den Protector just being the best possible.
I mean, it's not like Den Protector here still gets back to Reflector Mage and is quite good. The question is when does Craig get to attack? He's got more things. Some of his things are bigger.
Right, his Sylvan Advocates are 4/5s. His Lumbering Falls, if he activated that, would be crunching in for 7. Though right now, Fleisher has a 4/5 of his own, and then that 6/5 Tireless Tracker. So he has to do some cleanup before he's in the clear.
Right, so it does feel like Ryan is ahead on card advantage, but I'm not sure that makes up for the life total deficit he's running and the fact that he's behind on the board.
Yeah, depending how Craig is following up from here, these cards drawn just might not be enough.
Got to get damage in, and that's, at least game 1, that's really hard to do. It seems like you have to just overpower your opponents. You know, once you start being +3 creatures, +4 creatures, okay, then maybe we can talk about damage.
And during the Swiss, this is a matchup that, at least for a few players, went to time. Being able to navigate these games and find out when you're able to turn the corner is a skill that not all players have.
Recasting the Jace, Vryn's Prodigy by Krempels. Plays a land. He's down to 1 card. Now he's left up 6 mana, so that maybe that Duskwatch Recruiter can go find some friends.
Yeah, we're leaving up Duskwatch Recruiter activations. We're leaving up mana to flip up our morph. We could have a Collected Company.
And that is what Fleischer's going to do on end step. He's going to go recruiting. See here, the uncommon from Shadows over Innistrad, it's Duskwatch Recruiter. Great card on both sides. On the front, what's interesting about him is that frequently players prefer to have him on the front side. There he is, a 2/2 for 2, that for 3 mana lets you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, and you may put a creature card from that into your hand. Now, on the other side, it does something more. It turns into a 3/3 that makes your creature spells cost 1 less.
Both sides are a very good return on a 2-mana creature. Interestingly, with these banned company decks, a lot of times players really don't want their Duskwatch Recruiter to flip because they want to activate it anytime that they have the opportunity to. The Crawling Horde Howler is quite powerful, but it doesn't generate any card advantage.
Right, so on a board like this where everybody has plenty of 3/3s, 4/5s, maybe you just prefer it was Duskwatch Recruiter.
Yeah, here is easily better, and it's not just the size of the creatures on the table. It's also there's so much mana available. You just have to do something with it. So that mana sink generating card advantage is a lot bigger than just having something that just discounts your creature spells casting costs. You can already cast most or all of them anyway if you choose to.
You're more worried about running out of cards than running out of mana.
Exactly.
Chemistry, you call that. That's the limiting reagent here. Is the mana. Or where are the cards, rather.
This is accurate. I've never been great at vocab, but I liked chemistry.
We go back to Fleischer. He's got 9 lands in play. Plays a 10th. It's a Lumbering Falls. Gets a clue. think he's just going to pass. Now, Tireless Tracker. Craig's going to start refueling. Here we go. It's 1 activation. I believe he may have found Our Lady Avacyn in the top 3. He's got to show it to Fleisher if he wants to put it in his hand, and that takes away some of the punch.
Fleisher is kind of far from making an attack anyway, so it doesn't take away Avacyn's ability to just be cast end step and attack. With Fleisher down at 11, this Avacyn's a huge find.
So he finds an Avacyn, activates the Recruiter again, and Avacyn will find a Sylvan Advocate. Great pair of creatures. Now, of note, no player has actually cast a spell this turn, so those Duskwatch Recruiters will both become the Kralin Horde Howlers unless Ryan plays a spell.
It looks like we're going for one.
And I mean, I don't think he wants that to flip. If they flip, he can't activate his own.
He wants to use at least some of his mana. I assume 1, 2, possibly 3 activations is what he's going for on this turn cycle. And if it flips into the Howler, he'll have to do that on Craig's upkeep, which is not what he wants to do.
Well, there's some worries here. When you talk about size of creature, right now there's 2 Sylvan Advocates on Craig's side. The third one he just found will make cards like Lumbering Falls into a 9/9. What Ryan did there is he cracked 1 clue on his own turn. And now both the Recruiters will become Howlers. So
now,
big mana loss for Fleischer.
Now that Craig has found Avacyn, it's really good if his morph is a hidden Dragon Slayer. Especially, he has had the patience to not flip it up, because now, if Fleischer wants to deal with Avacyn, he has to have something like Dromoka's Command to fight with one of his large creatures, which the Dragon Slayer can just kill the creature that he targets with his Dromoka's Command, or an Avacyn of his own, which of course the Dragon Slayer could also kill.
Right, we go back over to Krempels. Recall last turn he picked up Sylvan Advocate and Archangel Avacyn. I like that he stayed at 20 all game. Just still has the flawless victory going.
Yeah, Fleischer really hasn't had good windows to get aggressive here. His game this entire time has been about trying to gain card advantage. Really unfortunate for Fleischer that Craig has found that first Avacyn. We haven't seen it hit the table yet. It's unclear if that's what the game plan is going to be and whether that's enough, but from the information we have right now, that was a huge find for Krempels.
We'll see how he goes from here. Still has that face on morph, either Hidden Dragon Slayer or Den Protector. And the calculation here seems to be, Craig needs to figure out if it's time to attack. If you attack and fail, it can be rather punishing. How generally in these large creature, when you have a game with lots of creatures on both sides, in general, combat favors the blocking player. So the attacker needs to have a sizable advantage before he's willing to enter combat.
So the thing about most matchups involving, most Magic cards historically, what attacking and failing usually means is that first, you lose creatures in combat when you attack. Your opponent can make favorable blocks in a way that allows them to survive, and then they get the option to crack back. The thing about Archangel Avacyn is that Craig can make an attack and at least know he's not going to lose any creatures in that combat.
Right. So what Craig did here, he looted with Jace. I think he's deciding he's not far enough ahead yet to enter combat. He's getting there. But he played Jace, discarded a card, flipped the Jace. Now he's flashback Collected Company. And now he's going to cast it. So he wants a bigger advantage before he's willing to enter combat.
Yep, that's what it looks like here. And if Fleischer is able to produce an offense coming back the other way, being able to use the Avacyn defensively first and then offensively really capitalizes on the potential power level of the card. And seeing as he has the ability to have access to so many cards and the Fleischer's deck in game 1 doesn't have any way to punish that, I do like just pulling ahead a little bit more.
Krempels finds Reflector Mage and Sylvan Advocate off the Collected Company. The Reflector Mage will reflect away what appears to be that Tireless Tracker, the 7/6. So here's a note, 3 Sylvan Advocates in play in the 4th in Krempels' hand. He's going to have the full set, which means cards like Lumbering Falls.
Yeah, now Lumbering Falls
It's little lumber on over for 11, which is Ryan's life total.
That's pretty convenient. That's even looking comparably attractive to casting Avacyn at this point.
Now he's got to get the 4th Advocate in play. It's only a 9/9 at the moment. See, First turn, Craig will play a land. And does it comes into play tapped? No. No. He's tapping it to play the 4th Advocate, which only costs 1 because of Kralin Horde Howler.
Right.
I think he's got to have 2 basics. I know they don't play many, but he's got to have 2.
And now the second spell has been cast, so we'll be seeing those Howlers turn back into Recruiters when we get back to Fleischer's turn.
Recruiting is his day job. At night, he howls. He tries to recruit the moon by howling at it. They're feral. It doesn't make sense. That's just what he does.
Recruit the moon.
I know it doesn't make sense. You know, werewolves.
No, actually, in a weird way, that reminded me of the movie It's a Wonderful Life. But we have more interesting things going on here.
You're saying we're going to leave us hanging on what that
We'll come back to it later.
All right. Craig is going to attack and play an Avacyn. Looks like Ryan, too, has enlisted the help of the legendary Angel Avacyn. For the record, if you don't know the combat math when Avacyns are on both sides, it's boring.
Yeah.
Okay.
None of the creatures die. The unblocked creatures deal their damage to Fleischer's life total. So we just have to figure out what's blocked.
So, some Avacyns. Those creatures up at the top on Craig's side, those are the ones that are summoning sick. It looks like Ryan's blocking just about everything. And now Craig has 4 more creatures in play.
Yeah,
Ryan goes to 9. He took 2.
Just a Reflector Mage poking through there.
But I think the important part here is if you look at the raw creature count, Craig has far more creatures than Ryan does.
He had more creatures and 2 advocates that were attacking with Vigilance, so he gets to hang back with a lot of creatures from this point.
Yeah, you mentioned about how when you attack, you have to accept a couple things. That 1, there's going to be some negative trades, and 2, there's going to be a crackback. Now, the Absent on Craig's side prevented the negative trades you're talking about, because Craig didn't lose anything. And so many cards with Vigilance means Fleischer doesn't even have a crackback. This attack was free.
Yeah, and Fleischer down at 9, Craig still at 20. If Fleischer can pull this off, I will be very impressed.
We see the Howlers going back to Duskwatch Recruiter. Goes back to his day job, finding more creatures. But Ryan's going to have to find a lot of creatures and quickly. If only Duskwatch Recruiter put them into play when he found them, then...
Yeah, that would be a reasonable text box for a 2-drop.
You know what, you think people might build combo decks with that?
Might.
Puts the creature into play, yeah.
Any creature,
you
have
to reveal it.
That's true. You have to reveal it as you put it onto the battlefield.
Right. I can't see how that could be broken. I don't get it.
So there's no shortage of mana for Fleischer in terms of, being able to draw cards, being able to cast spells, but when we're starting to need to activate Recruit to find our creatures, we are a little bit choked relative to how far behind we are with how many creatures that
So if
Craig
he just
has.
had 12 more mana in play, 12 more, then he could recruit 4 times, cast his whole hand, it'd be okay. And I understand that 12 is a ridiculous number, but, it's a certain point where Ryan has played a land every turn, and you still look at his land and say, man, he just doesn't have enough.
Yeah, in a lot of matchups on a lot of board states, he has an absurd number of mana, more than enough to do whatever he wants, but the way that this game has played out, he's actually kind of choked on mana, and part of that is any ability that you can activate as many times as you want. Sure, you want as much mana as possible, but that is the choking point this game.
Ryan is going to play and morph Hidden Dragon Slayer, so it will take care, once again, talking about day jobs, he'll kill the Archangel Avacyn.
It is the weekend.
I know, he's looking at his own attacks. Archangel Avacyn looks like it'll attack. It'll take care of Jace. Now, the card I did not expect to be as relevant as it looks like it's going to be here is Sylvan Advocate. The card's good, but in such a clogged creature mirror, I didn't think it would be this good. The fact that Craig has all 4 of them still may swing this.
Well, the way that the creatures line up in this matchup, Reflector Mage being a 2/3 matters in a lot of ways. For example, Bounding Craces attacking into 2 Reflector Mages just gets eaten and only takes 1 mage with it. With Advocate being a 4/5, you need to block with sometimes 3 creatures. If you have Crasis, fine, you get to eat it. But another thing with when you're ahead, suddenly double blocking or triple blocking the Advocate is a really bad proposition. There's just other creatures connecting because of that size.
So the third Sylvan Advocate played by Ryan Fleischer was his last play there. He goes ahead and bounces one of the 4 Sylvan Advocates to Craig's hand. And we're back to Krempels. He cannot replay that Advocate. His Lumbering Falls are 9/9s right now.
Yeah, now things looking a little bit more even with Krempels' Avacyn hitting the graveyard. He's going to want to find a way to get his other Avacyn or return that to hand. You know, his Den Protector, should that be his face-down card, would get it back. Or he could go recruiting looking for it. There's certainly no shortage of ways to just continue to develop his board and try to pull far enough ahead on creatures. Fleischer, again, is at 9. Doesn't have to get ahead by too many creatures to actually just make a lethal attack.
All right, so Craig will play Nissa Vastwood Seer. This one's great in that it will very readily be able to change into Nissa Sage Animist here. Net Craig more cards, though they are not running out of cards. I don't know.
So with the Avacyn in play for Fleischer, I imagine that this Nissa is going to just make a 4/4 on the first turn and ask Fleischer if he wants to attack it.
So there's that. The other thing you can do is, how many times have you ever seen a Nissa Sage Animist use her ultimate?
I don't think I've ever seen it. Though, if this Morphier is the Dragon Slayer, then that will stop the Avacyn from being able to attack into the Nissa.
All right. Swing here from Krempels. It's a full attack again. I wonder if we have a second Archangel. He does play 2 in the main deck.
So considering that Morph is still face down, it could be Den Protector Archangel.
He does have the mana for that, doesn't he?
If it were Dragon Slayer, I can't imagine that we're turning it sideways before killing the Avacyn. So I'm leaning heavily towards that being Den Protector at this point.
So Ryan's going to line up blocks here first. You see, once again, he's making every block possible, but he's just been behind on number of creatures, and it's been this way for a while. And now he's having to make unfavorable blocks. You see Duskwatch Recruiter stepping in front of Sylvan Advocate.
And Fleischer tapped very low. There won't be any Avacyns on his side to make this combat at all favorable for him.
No, and it may be that because, despite the fact that this has been all about board control, Ryan's life total's gotten low enough that Craig has forced Ryan into making a out-of-position block, and he's going to punish him very hard for it.
Right. And just the way that this game's played out, despite Fleischer having all those tireless trackers, the way that they generated card advantage was by making that clue, so he had to commit mana to drawing a card going into his hand. You know, Craig was doing things like casting Collected Company, and he got ahead that way, and he was able to leverage a board presence.
So go to combat, and looks like we have Den Protector morphing up.
Yeah, given this attack, there was just no way that was not Den Protector.
Yeah, but it's going to be Den Protector getting back Dramoka's command. Not getting back Avacyn. This might be lethal. Yeah, because Ryan did not block with a Duskwatch Recruiter, there's 8 power of unblocked creatures. Yeah, one counter makes it 9, right?
Yeah, two unblocked Sylvan Advocates. 8 power plus 1, that's lethal.
And there you go, Craig Krempels pulls ahead and takes game 1 off Ryan Fleischer.
Only a half hour in. Plenty of magic left in this quarter and the semifinal matchup.
Well, get ready. So game 1 here, boy, a lot of things going on. So first of all, it seemed, it's a fight over card advantage to begin with. We saw both players caring about tireless trackers. But then once you got later in the game, I didn't think they cared about tireless trackers so much. It wasn't as much about a card advantage, it was just about number of creatures in play. It became a velocity thing. Craig got more, and then it became an Archangel Avacyn game at the end, where you're trying to find a couple haymakers.
So the way it shapes up, the deck has a lot of ways to make card advantage, whether it be Duskwatch Recruiter, whether it be Tireless Tracker. At the end of the day, the spell you want to be casting at any window possible is Collected Company, because it just gets that value right under that table, helps you pull away without investing mana in your card advantage.
As far as the stuff to mana ratio, you know, this is a very scientific term. Stuff to mana. How much stuff am I getting? How much mana did I pay? Collected Company has the best stuff to mana ratio of anything in the deck by quite a bit.
And also where it's going. Battlefield versus hand, a real consideration.
Right. I mean, so Duskwatch recruiting up a creature and casting it has a bad stuff to mana ratio, right? Because I got one creature and I paid, well, 3 and then 2 for it. So like one guy for 5 mana, Collected Company's 2 guys for 4 mana.
Yes. And even when you have 9 lands in play, as we saw Fleisher have that game, you can't just activate the recruiter as much as you want. Craig just kept pulling further and further ahead. 3 mana is a lot for 1 activation to draw a card.
That much makes sense. All right, well, we're going to look at the sideboard in a second. Before, though, one thing, we were talking about game night before, about how you could get Slobber and Mile Driver on just about anything you wanted. Well, okay, maybe not anything, but we do have a lot of that available in the creature collection. You're now available on playmats, sleeves, and player bundles. You see, this is the adorable puppy. You might recognize him from April's game night promos, and that would be the very same dog. And now we get the backstory of what the heck Mile Driver means. See, it's this guy. It's the dog. He's on a road trip. It makes sense.
Driving miles. It is the...
Well, he's more riding, but yeah.
It's probably like a top 3 pun of all time.
Yeah,
it's just so well constructed. Everything about this makes perfect sense.
So we have that one from Game Night available. If you're not a dog person, and I'm not as much of a dog person, and you want cats on everything, okay, we have another one available, and that's the Tiger playmat and sleeves. And these are, they're kinds of cats. They're sitting there hanging out. One of them's looking at itself in the water, and the other one's splashing around, talking. Well, you can get those on playmat, sleeves, and player bundles as well. StarCGames.com/creature collection.
Referring to tigers as cats is somewhat disingenuous from my perspective. When you hear cat, you think house cat, much different from jungle cat, but I'll give it a pass compared to how you defined fish.
This is way closer than the fish one.
Well, the tiger on the left is in water.
So that's a fish cat. And the other one is just a cat.
Okay. So some tigers are fish.
Some tigers are fish. Some are not fish. The other one is thinking about being a fish, but it's not yet.
That's what catfish are.
Exactly.
Everybody knows this.
We'll look at the sideboard. Let's look at Ryan Fleischer's board first. So he's got more Hidden Dragon Slayer, some Lantern Scout, some Clipwings, some Dispel, Negate, Declaration in Stone, and then something that, if you didn't watch the quarterfinal match, you should go back and watch it. You'll know this is in his deck. It's Planar Outburst.
Oh, yeah, that's a huge one. So a cool thing here is that Fleischer has Planar Outburst in his sideboard. Krempels has Tragic Arrogance in his sideboard. They're both sweepers that players will be... They both have to keep the other player's sweeper in mind when they're constructing the board, and they also have to play relative to their own sweeper. So for Craig, he wants to build a board position where he has one thing he wants to keep around with Tragic Arrogance and something crappy to leave Ryan after it resolves, and then Ryan just wants to be a little bit behind so he can clean up some advantage when he casts Planar Outbursts. So we're going to see some removal spells coming into play. The spot removal, we have Declaration in Stone. And then we'll have those sweepers for both players.
Yeah. Is one sweeper significantly better than the other? I understand they are different, but is one better?
Yeah, so on its face, you might think that Tragic Arrogance is better because Craig gets to choose who's getting Wrath and how. And indeed, if he has an Avacyn and he's able to leave you with like a Bounding Crisis, he comes out very far ahead. But Planar Outburst has the ability to attack after you cast it.
Oh, so we're awakening Planar Outburst.
Right.
We're getting to 9 mana.
He had 9 mana in game 1. He's going to have 9 mana in... I assume most or all of the rest of the games in this match. So I do like Planar Outburst better than I like Tragic Arrogance in the mirror match.
All right, I suppose I could see that. Then again, other things we look at, they have copies of Declaration in Stone. They both have Clip Wings. They both could maybe negate some negate or even dispel some of those Collected Companies. How much do we like any of these?
I don't particularly like Dispel. Dispel does hit, say, Dramoka's Command and Collected Company, but you want to bring in those counters that will counter your opponent's sweeper. So I do like Negate more than Dispel, and I don't think you can just bring in 5 copies of a counterspell for this matchup.
Yeah, you might be left over with some.
Yeah, you have to play the matchup on the board, and also if you bring in too much stuff, your Duskwatch Recruiter starts missing. So for Fleischer, I imagine he'll be bringing in up to 3 negates. And I think it's the same story on Craig's side. He doesn't have access to Dispel, but somewhere 1, 2, or 3 negates.
Yeah. Extra Dem Protector on Krempels' side seems like a yes?
Yeah, definitely. Get back a Collected Company, that's great. Get back an Avacyn like he did in that first game.
I'm sure he'll find time to flip it at some point here.
And then there's access to Clip Wings as well. It is for Avacyn. But I don't think that this is the Avacyn matchup it's for.
Now, I'm interested here. We saw a lot of cards, which are the 4 ofs in the main deck here. So the core of the deck, Sylvan Advocate, Duskwatch Recruiter, Bounding Crisis, Tireless Tracker, Reflector Mage, Collected Company. Okay. I liked all those things to talk about boarding in, but what do you not need here?
Okay,
And
so
I'm
we're
not
talking
boarding
about
out
what
Collected
are we
Companies.
bringing out,
Yeah.
right?
I was going to first say Advocate, but I was actually very impressed by it that game. That seemed very, that's too good to board out. Duskwatch Recruiter, I mean, you don't need all this card advantage, these Tireless Tracker and Duskwatch Recruiters, but you need some. Like once you have them both in play, the second one does not feel necessary.
Right. Bounding Krasis is pretty medium in the mirror. It's only going to be especially great in a game
Okay.
if you're very capable of tempoing your opponent out. Reflector Mage at least.
We're not touching that card.
Right. That'll at least get a creature off the table and limit your opponent's next turn. The Krasis just tapping something, a 3/3 for 3 in this mirror that has so much card advantage. I think that one's a safe one to board out. And Dromoka's Command is kind of iffy as well.
All right, so we're underway. Game number 2. Ryan Fleisher on the play for a second time. He was defeated in game 1. As we will start off the game once again with some tap lands. It's going to be a Lumbering Falls and Evolving Wilds for Fleisher. And it'll be Craig. He has the first play of the game, and it's a good one. It's a copy of Jace Vryn's Prodigy. Yeah. Turn 2 Jace. I just remember this being so dominant last year's Standard. It of course is still good.
Yeah, and if Craig is able to produce a Collected Company and flip that Jace, it will still be very good. The looting will help him shape up his draws to line up against Ryan's in the early turns as well. Doesn't apply pressure, but again, from the way we saw both players take a lot of turns with no attacks, games go long in this match.
Duskwatch Recruiter and a tap land was the play for Fleischer as we go back to Krempels. He will get some activations off with this Jace. In fact, it's very likely he'll get to make it all the way to Planeswalker with it. The ability of this deck to attack ever is pretty low in the matchup.
Right, once it gets to be a Planeswalker, there's just going to be a bunch of creatures staring at each other on both sides, so if Jace flips, it's usually able to hang out. If Fleischer has something like a Declaration in Stone or a Dromoka's Command, we could see it aimed at the Jace to stop that, though.
Nissa Vastwood Seer cast from Krempels, and this was actually a liability. Maybe the reason he had to cast it right now. You notice in play he's got 2 copies of Basic Forest.
Yeah, then he goes and finds Third Forest.
Which is fortunately still in his deck.
It is the Third Forest. There are only 3. You don't want
Does he have more than one Nissa?
For Krempels, he has exactly 1 Nissa.
All right.
Fleischer as well. Logan Mize, I believe, had 2. But
playing with fire when you do that. Second one's never.
You're right.
Might miss.
I mean, three is not very many targets for your tutor there.
That's kind of interesting. This matchup where card advantage is so plentiful, even if you had to play a Nissa and missed your forest, I wonder how much would matter. Now, a big swing here. Ryan went for main phase Collected Company while Craig was tapped out, and he put 6 cards on the bottom of his deck.
So this could be what we were talking about in sideboarding with putting too much stuff in the deck. I was talking about missing with Duskwatch Recruiter, but it's so much worse when you miss with Collected Company. It's the most important card, or the second most important card, depending, Avis and Collected Company. It's those 2 cards, but when you miss on it, geez.
It is one of the swingiest things that can happen in Collected Company mirrors. When your opponents find 2 creatures and yours find 0, that can cost games.
Not only did you mulligan, you used all of your mana for 1 turn, and I'm assuming that the Collected Company is the representative of the best card in your hand. So, you're only making up for the advantage you lost if you cast a second company.
So on his turn there, Craig, on Ryan's end step, he used Jace to draw and discard. He discarded a forest. Untapped. Attacked with Nissa to even the score at 18. Played a Tireless Tracker. Played the Prairie Stream. Made a clue and passed back to Ryan.
So now we have Krempels with 3 creatures. 2 of them that can turn into Planeswalkers, and 1 of them that gives him the ability to get another card every time he makes a land drop against Ryan's 2/2.
Yeah, so once again, for the second game in a row, Ryan finds himself significantly behind on the board as he passes the turn. And this time, through less fault of his own, the Collected Company, this wasn't what it was supposed to happen when he went for the turn 4 company.
Well, passing with 4, it's very likely that he has another company. So really hoping that he hits on that one.
This is interesting
Yeah, given the no activation on the tracker there, he's doing something with this mana.
Is it possible this is a way that you could, if he had no land here either, it's a way that Ryan could get Avacyn into play?
Yeah, flipping over that Recruiter, he has 4 lands, and now he'd be able to cast it at the discount.
The Krallenhard Howler is in play. Something about It's a Wonderful Life, I think. That reminds, I'm reminded of that movie by this card, if I'm not mistaken.
See, that was what you said. It's not the card specifically. Okay, you said he tries to recruit the moon. The big line in It's a Wonderful Life, he asked, do you want the moon? I'll give you the moon.
So he's a Krallenhard Howler in It's a Wonderful
My
Life?
reference made sense.
Well, so the guy's day job is he's Duskwatch Recruiter.
Yeah, Jimmy Stewart is a werewolf, I think is what I was saying.
Okay. All right, I like that. I makes me want to watch that movie again.
It doesn't get any better if you watch it thinking that.
Well, you're saying that like you know.
Yes.
All right, Craig Krempels, he'll cast Collected Company of his own. Tried to go to attacks, but Bounding Krasis from Fleisher stopped that. Craig has hit creatures. Plural.
At least 2 of
I
them.
like this version of It's a Wonderful Life, where he's...
Well, there's a lot of scenes that are just at night, though.
I know.
Wait, did Craig hit creatures? Was I lied to?
Well, he hit creature, he hit a Bounding Krasis. So Bant Company not really doing the company thing on either side of the board. Still is favoring Krempels, though. He hit Bounding Krasis.
Right, 1 is greater than 0. Krasis is still in the deck, so I guess that we're hanging on to that one. You begin to wonder what was boarded out.
Yeah, so what Craig did with his Bounding Krasis, there was nothing he really wanted to tap. So he targeted the Jace with the ability, then he looted with Jace, and then used the Lizard to untap the Jace. It will let him get to Planeswalker more quickly here.
Yep, that is about the strongest mode on the Krasis in the mirror, actually. You know, in the end game, tapping things can matter a lot.
Yeah, unlike its predecessor of the Exarch here, it does not tap lands, so it's just creatures.
Yeah, and with Fleischer just hanging out with 4 lands, if it had that ability, that could come in handy here.
Hitting their green on the upkeep would be real good.
Yeah, it's almost as if it was by design that they didn't want
They don't.
that.
I like it when I like messing with my opponent's lands. That's fun, right? That's good magic.
It's fun for exactly one player.
Yeah.
If you subscribe,
The one that matters.
Well, Glenn Jones has a theory about fun, and that is that fun is 0 sum. Any
What?
fun that you are having is fun that I am not having.
So I have to just take it all. My solution to that has always been to play decks where it's always my turn. All right, Ryan Fleischer will play a face-down morph. He does that for 2 colorless based off that Krallenhard Howler. So has the mana to flip up something like Den Protector.
See, turns are categorically 0 sum. So if I take all the
It's
turns,
either my turn or your turn.
right, you take no turns. So I like this strategy.
Best deck in Modern, taking turns. Easy.
That's not exactly what I was saying.
We're going to go back over to Krempels. He untaps here, facing down only 3 creatures on Fleischer's side. He's slowly gaining that advantage again. You see 3 more he's up to 4 and now 5 creatures. He'll play Reflector Mage to continue to push the issue.
So with a card on its backside, a morph, I guess another card on its backside, and a Bounding Krasis, a creature with flash, the Reflector Mage won't have the same kind of tempo swing it usually has, but the big thing here is just that Craig is very far ahead on the table, so the Mage is still huge.
Reflector Mage bounces the Krallenhard Howler to Ryan Fleischer's hand, and now Bounding Krasis will attack. So the Lizard brawls in. Ryan has the option to likely trade it with either of his creatures. See if he does that. Or last game we saw him start to take damage instead of trading, but it did cost him. And he's going to just double block the Krasis. Doesn't want any sort of Dromoka's command getting at him.
Yeah, he says, which one of these do you want to kill in combat?
He'll flip a Den Protector, and he's going to give Collected Company another go. He puts it back in his hand.
I like the double block quite a lot. You know, not only are you playing around Dromoka's command, but your creatures are worth very similar amounts of value there. You know, it's just some 3-power creature is dying.
Fortified Village coming into play tapped there. No reveal by Krempels. But he will tap and flip the Jace. It will shrink down Bounding Krasis. Now he'll play Sylvan Advocate, pass the turn. And for the second game, I like the strategy that Craig seems to have going into this game. He's just aware that it's creature count that seems to be mattering more than anything else. I don't even know if it matters what their names are. I suppose if they're named Avacyn, it's really good.
Right.
But I mean, these other ones, okay, what is it? If I could say, yeah, it's Tireless Tracker, Reflector Mage, Sylvan Advocate, Nissa. But I could just say, if I say Craig has 4 guys to Ryan's 1.
Well, 4 guys says 1. Also, is like, is that a creature, a 2, 3, or a 4? Is it Reflector Mage, 2 power creature? Is it a 3 power creature, or is it a 4, 5 Sylvan Advocate?
Yeah, so at that point, Advocate does seem a bit better, but not by that much. Ryan's going to go ahead and cast that Collected Company that he got back with the Den Protector, and it's a good one. He hits Reflector Mage and Nissa Vastwood Seer, so he'll get the land drop he's been wanting for so long.
Yeah, been on 4 lands for a long time. The 5th land will help him quite a bit in the following turns here.
Sylvan Advocate will be returned to Krempels' hand. That 2 in front of the Krasis is reminding us that it is smaller due to Jace. Now keep in mind, Craig, not only is he ahead on creatures, or even on creatures right now, he's even on creatures, even on life points. He's ahead on lands. He has this Planeswalker hanging out, and there's those 2 clues up at the top. If Craig ever decides he needs more cards, they're at the ready.
Yeah, and you just see so much of that in this matchup. Players are always going to have access to cards.
The draw from Krempels is Reflector Mage. Have to think he's happy to find that at just about any point in the game. Though, to be fair, the cards he could bounce, none of them are that great to put back into Ryan's hand.
Yeah, Reflector Mage always at least does what Manowar does. Sometimes
it gets rid of a blocker.
Right. Sometimes it has some better upsides. Certainly it always has 3 toughness. But this matchup, the creatures in this deck are largely Manowar proof.
Yeah, I mean, you could hope to hit a Tireless Tracker or a Sylvan Advocate. Those are always great.
Right. Certainly if the Tireless Tracker has a bunch of +1/+1 counters, then it's excellent.
I thought the Tracker was excellent in this matchup. The more these gentlemen play it, the more I start to think it's merely okay.
Well, again, if you could be using all of your mana to just be collected companying, or just putting things into play, as long as you have creatures in your hand to play, you want to just be casting creatures. Tracker makes you use mana to draw cards, and you don't really always want to draw cards.
Well, Craig is going to use the Tracker to a lot of effect here. He starts out by tapping 2 to crack a clue, draws a land, plays a land. That's the 7th land, so Nissa, no longer the Vastwood Seer, becomes the Sage Animist, a Planeswalker. Craig's going to go ahead and crack that land, which is involving Wilds, to get another basic, which, oh, by the way, that's another land, so another clue. I think we can just assume for the time being that Craig has as many clues as he wants. He just has an emblem of 2 colorless draw card.
He has no shortage of them, and now he has 2 Planeswalkers, and a lot of pressure on Fleisher to find something like Avacyn to start getting at those Planeswalkers. Of course, the card advantage isn't even what it's about, and the Jace is going to flashback Collected Company to get him ahead on board, and the Nissa could be building up towards that Nissa Ultimate that we were talking about earlier that could just end the game.
And even getting the Nissa does not get him far down on creatures that can make that 4/4 Ashaya Elemental token. And back over to Krempels.
It is a significant drawback. I don't know, terribly significant, but the token that Nissa does make is legendary, so Craig won't be able to minus, plus, plus, minus, and make a bunch of 4/4s. So that is good.
That's the wrong Nissa. You see, he will make the 4/4 Elemental token. So once again, Collected Company's failing a little bit here. Craig, his other play was to -3 his Jace down to 3. Flashback a Collected Company and cast it. Now the only creature he got off it was Jace Vryn's Prodigy, so a basic miss for him.
Yeah, when he already controls Jace Telepath Unbound, that is a near miss, I guess is how I would word it.
Now he's had 2 companies, and each one has hit 1. First one was a lone Bounding Krasis. Second was a lone Jace. And even with that, look how much more stuff he has.
Well, Fleisher missed entirely off of a Collected Company.
So yeah. In 2 companies, Fleisher has 2 creatures, and in 2 companies, Craig has 2 creatures.
Maybe this card just isn't actually very good.
I mean, what if imagine, for example, this board, if Craig had hit 4 creatures off those 2 companies. I mean, it would just be, this game would be over. But as it is now, he's still very far ahead.
Yeah, it would be from slightly ahead to very ahead. Especially if we had some Sylvan Advocates, which have pretty solid attacks on this table. Particularly with the Jace being able to remove a power from creatures on Fleisher's side of the table. Get aggressive that way. Okay, Reflector Mage from Fleisher is fine here. Does get that token off the table. That means in order to make that 4/4 again, Craig is going to have to activate Nissa on the plus a couple times, and then to get that 4/4 back. So it does catch him up significantly. So Fleisher thinking about what 2-drop he wants to play from here. Still off of the 6th land, so even Sylvan Advocate's not very impressive, but Dromoka's command does let him clean up quite a bit more. He'll be able to take out the Tireless Tracker if he decides, so he will have to give up a creature on this board, it being a 4-power creature. Unable to give a 5th toughness to anything. So he's thinking pretty hard on what modes he wants.
So we're going to see him pick here. All right, so the Krasis is going to fight the Tracker. They will trade. A 1/1 counter will go on Nissa Vastwood Seer. And a swing here from Fleischer. He's got to get those Planeswalkers off the board. And what in a respect here, all the creatures are going at Nissa.
And I really like the way that he moded that Dromoka's command, making his Nissa 3/3 turn it into a very good attacker on this board. You know, and he knows that if he just lets Craig hang out with Planeswalkers and continue to commit more creatures, he's only going to fall further and further behind. 2 lands off of turning his Nissa into a Planeswalker himself. So it'll be able to hang out as a 3/3 for a while. Now, Craig this turn, we could see him use his Jace Planeswalker to flashback a spell, and then suddenly the other Jace can turn into a Planeswalker as well. But now he is behind on board.
Yeah, so we actually have to have we're pausing the game here for a judge call. The Reflector Mage did attack, which was cast this turn, so that was not a legal play. The judge is going to resolve the situation here, and we'll let you know the resolution of that in just a second.
Yeah, going on an hour into the match, definitely you're going to start seeing mistakes like that happen. So we'll find out exactly how they want to resolve this. I actually have no idea how you rule that, so that's why I'm not a judge.
Right.
That's why we have a judging staff.
That's why we have the head judge here. All right. So we're going to bring you back to the booth here while the judge makes a ruling here. Once again, if you're joining us, we are in semifinal match number 2 here at the Columbus Invitational. This is Craig Krempels versus Ryan Fleischer. The winner will be playing against Max McVitie in the finals. Craig winning game 1, looking, I still think, despite losing that the Nissa Sage Animus there, Craig looks like he's in a good spot to go up 2-0 in the series.
Craig looks advantaged, but there is pressure on him on this turn and the next turn to maintain. He is starting to get behind on creatures. He has the tools to keep him in. You know, the Jace Planeswalker is still hanging out. Another Jace that could flip as well if he flashes back something, and you know, still mana to cast some spells as well. So we'll see how Craig's current turn goes, but it is an important turn for him.
All right, so the judges ruled we are close enough to the infraction that they are going to rewind to the attack. So now Ryan can decide how many creatures he wants to attack to. He's still going to attack with 2 creatures, it looks like. But that Reflector Mage has to stay at home.
Okay, and then without the 2 Reflector Mages, you know, it only takes 1 damage to kill the Nissa Planeswalker. So a creature is going to be coming through here unless, well, Craig goes and chump blocks with the Jace. So even without that extra attack, you know, this is not necessarily great for Craig. He does get to keep the Nissa. That is big.
Yeah, I mean, that was big. The amount of respect Ryan was paying to Nissa here does mean that if Craig gets to keep it, you know, that is not without cause.
Yeah, so now that we know this ruling was the rewind, Craig is still in a pretty solid position here. looks like still 5 cards in hand, so I'm sure
Yeah.
we'll be seeing him committing further into the board.
The Sage Animus plus there. The top card of Craig's deck was a copy of Evolving Wild, so that got to go onto the battlefield. So back to Krempels. Now 2 Planeswalkers in his control. He will go ahead and so plus this, and now he pluses the Jace to shrink down the still Sage Animist on Ryan's side of the board.
So if Ryan were able to cast a Declaration in the Stone, he would get these Sylvan Advocates off
Yeah.
the table. Craig already has 3 clues, so
That-
give him more, whatever.
That Craig got to play 2 Sylvan Advocates there. He now has superior blockers, 2 Planeswalkers, and he has 3 clue tokens in play. This feels like a snowball waiting to happen.
Right, so if we have a Declaration in Stone, we have some attacks on the Planeswalkers, that would go a long way in cleaning up this board, but he really wants that Declaration. If he doesn't have it, we just played 8 power and 10 toughness for 4 mana.
Yeah.
Not to mention any residual pumps on any Lumbering Falls.
And no creature, no spell, no land from Ryan. And now I suspect the snowball here is going to begin.
Well, if you're Ryan or a fan of Fleischer's, you're hoping that what he's doing here is leaving up an Avacyn.
That would be the, yeah.
That card
At
alone,
least, or at least a collected company.
right. Avacyn on its own helps him pressure the Planeswalkers, outright kill Nissa on the following turn. Also saves his creature in this combat. Craig presumably will start making some attacks in the next couple of turns here, though. He is fully aware that Avacyn is being represented, and Craig has not shown signs of being particularly aggressive in this matchup.
Draws 1 card on the end step there, and then we untap and go again. He picked up another land.
Legacy Challenge players, the pairings.
We see Prairie Stream. That's the land played for Krempels.
Legacy Challenge.
Now up to 9 lands in play. So go back. Jace will plus yet again. Up to 5, shrinking down the Reflector Mage.
So if he's plussing Jace right now, that's a sign to me that there will be no attacks this turn. Because I have to imagine he's going to be respecting Avacyn.
That Reflector Mage will bounce the Nissa. At this point, Ryan flashing an Avacyn to play is not even particularly good. He's going to make attacks, but it's just the safe ones. It's 2 Sylvan Advocates, and Ryan couldn't make the Angel any quicker.
Yeah, the follow-up of Reflector Mage makes this attack look a lot better, you know. And the Bounding Crisis, of course, removes a blocker.
Before blocks, Craig's going to play the Crisis, so Avacyn's tapped.
So these 2 blockers will still be able to soak up the damage from the Advocates, but
yeah,
they don't kill anything, which is good.
Right, the Reflector Mages are still indestructible thanks to Avacyn.
So now Craig needs a follow-up
Yeah.
on that Avacyn, otherwise he's going to lose his Nissa on this turn.
Another plus from Craig from Nissa, netted him another card. He has more clue tokens at the ready. Just resources, lands, creatures. Craig's ahead on all of them. If he was at a lower life total, this Avacyn could give Ryan some outs here. But Craig at 18.
Right, even with the Avacyn flipping, he has 2 4/5s in play. They would stick around and it would sweep up Fleischer's Reflector Mages.
Avacyn is going to try to go at Nissa. Now, before attacks, Ryan is going to Bounding Crisis to tap the Angel yet again. And then Ryan's he'll untap it right on back. And that's all that Craig had. So Nissa, the Sage Animist, is now back into the graveyard.
Yeah, that was a really good crisis for Fleischer there.
But still, the work for Fleischer has just begun here.
Yeah, getting Nissa down was just step 1. There's still 2 4/5s hanging out on Craig's side and a few other creatures, not to mention another Planeswalker.
We go back to Krempels. He has 2 clues left, a Planeswalker, 6 creatures, draws a card. I don't know if he needs a Dramoka's Command, a Declaration in Stone. If he can get the Archangel Avacyn off the board, then these Crasises, these Sylvan Advocates, they are all free to start trading.
Yeah, he starts to have some really good attacks, and his Advocate attacks not even necessarily bad on this board. He at least cleans something up so that the 2/3s and the 3/3s can start attacking on the following turn.
Yeah, he would be fine. I mean, how much is he worried if he attacks with the Advocate, though, that Ryan may just block with one human and then Avacyn, will go vengeful and destroy all the creatures?
Yeah, see, you would flip Avacyn. That would make it so the 6/5 is the only creature Fleisher controls against Craig's 2 4/5s. The 6/5 doesn't have Vigilance, so if he wants to attack, he's choosing to trade 6 damage for 8 damage.
Well, if Craig swings an Advocate, Fleisher could just block with all the little guys.
Sure, if you close everything in the way.
Then Craig loses an Advocate,
But
Ryan kills almost the whole board. It's not time yet. That doesn't work.
Yeah, if he makes that block, he's definitely betting on Craig not having an answer to Avacyn on the table, which doesn't always pay off.
All right, well, let's take all the suspense out of it. Here's Dromoka's command. Sylvan Advocate will just simply fight down the Angel. If this doesn't work, recall that Craig can even flash it back. Dispel was the play from Fleisher. Craig is going to try again. Jace -3 looks to go for Dromoka's command a second time.
And that Dispel from Fleisher gives us a little bit more insight into exactly how he's sideboarded.
Yeah, I was wondering, with that play on the board, I mean...
It's likely that Fleisher has as many as 5 counterspells in his deck, given that he has Dispel instead of Negate, right?
He could. He could have up to 5. So Craig will try for the exact same play. Counter on Krasis. Advocate fights Archangel Avacyn, and now Avacyn in the graveyard. One wide open, no spells at that mana cost for Fleisher. This is going to be a hefty attack from Krempels.
The one Advocate does have 4 damage on it.
Yeah, that one's
going to
stay home.
Yeah, that one's going to stay home for sure.
And here is the swing. A 4/5 Advocate, a 4/4 Krasis, and a 3/3 Krasis. Looks like actually for Krempels, both Advocates staying home. He's just going to swing with the Lizards.
Yeah, the Advocate trading down is really bad.
Yeah,
he's ahead,
a
but
double block of Lizard and Reflector Mage.
Okay, it does make sense now that we're sending the Reflector Mages, because you know that damage is getting through anyway.
Everybody's coming in. So he could either do the safe attack, which is the Krasis, or he can do the fast one, and that's what he's opted for. Everybody but that Advocate with damage on it is attacking. Because there's no free blocks for Fleisher here. There's no... Fleisher does... I guess Fleisher could put there is a free block. He can just kill a Reflector Mage with the Krasis.
Yeah. And then bouncing Mage versus Mage is, technically free. It's not exciting. Probably rather be double blocking on, say, the 4/4 Krasis. So
it looks like it's going to be bounding Krasis on Reflector Mage, 2 Reflector Mages on the other Reflector Mage. So yeah, he's taking 2 free creatures, but he's going to take a lot of damage for this. It looks like we have 11 damage as the cost of this.
And the other consideration here is that Craig still has a bunch of mana up.
Yeah, a bunch of mana, some clues, some cards in hand.
Could have another Dromoka's command, so you don't want to make any crazy blocks.
Just playing Avacyn. No, he's 1 mana short of that one, but... Face down Morph for Craig Krempels. And another land, Evolving Wilds. We go back to Fleisher, he's at 7. He lost his Archangel that turn, still just 5 lands in play. And that is the hopelessness part of this game from the Fleischer side, is that he has 5 lands and Craig has 10. And so when you think about all the ways Fleischer could come back, that land count is what I keep coming back to.
He needs to be doing at least 2 things a turn. And
3 even.
It's probably in 3 territory. We're not at 3 mana, so things are looking grim for Fleischer.
There's no way for the deck to speed extra lands into play. This is one way to start. He'll play Nissa Vastwood Seer. That will get him a land for his hand.
And of course, it will be coming into play for his turn.
Right, so it's a good turn here for Fleischer, developing that mana base. If he can manage to hold on for the next 2 or 3 turns, this will be fine, but it's that Craig has enough mana to do, Craig next turn can crack a clue, unflip Den Protector, get back Dromoka's command, cast it, play a creature, go. And that's just more things than Ryan can do.
Right. And he still has a Planeswalker in play.
Oh yeah, there's also there's also this Planeswalker too. That matters, I suppose.
Jason 2 loyalty, of course, not the most exciting thing, but when you're up on creatures and you have a Planeswalker that's building towards something, that's a great position.
So now we go back to Krempels. The trick here for Ryan will be, can he survive this turn and next? You know, in a lot of ways, this reminds me, if you need to watch Jeskai Black last season, you'd see them with 10 lands in play, and you think, surely he's going to run out of stuff he can do. But it just, you know, the deck just kept having 7 cards in hand. You'd be like, oh, you know, like 11 lands, good, now I can Soulfire twice in a turn. And they just would keep doing things. I get that feeling again watching Bant Company.
Yeah, there's just a lot of cards that don't have a cap on how much value they can generate.
Yeah, Krempels will go for Collected Company, Fleisher will Dispel. Certainly can't beat that one. But there's still this Den Protector in play. I guess it could be Hidden Dragon Slayer. It doesn't really matter. These Sylvan Advocates getting scarier and scarier.
Yeah, Craig still hasn't found a Lumbering Falls despite how many lands he has in play. Those would make these Advocates actually extremely scary. And
yeah, a 7/7 Hexproof, I could get behind that. Den Protector will be unmorphed. Could get back Collected Company. Okay, he's going for the more aggressive line. Everybody at home appreciates you, Craig.
Well, he's just considering his options. He hasn't locked it in just yet. Okay, there it is.
There's Reflector Rage. I was to say, oh, it's probably things where the absolutely technically correct best thing to get back is just, another Collected Company. But
yeah,
Reflector Mage is what he'll get back. He'll cast it too.
Yeah.
That puts the Lizard back into Fleischer's hand. Here comes the team.
They're past 70 minutes. You know, Craig has to eat dinner at some point today.
You mean he can take his 98% and go down to 97 to maybe shave 10 minutes off the match?
That's a plus EV play, I think. It's difficult to translate percentage points in a match and a time of your life. I haven't done a lot of that.
What
math.
would you rather be doing with your life than playing Magic? What are you saying? I love this game. I'd like to play more of it. Here's a swing. Ryan makes the only possible block to stay alive, but it puts him down to 1, and he loses his team.
A Planar Outburst would be big here.
Okay, you're right. He does play Planar Outburst, as we remember from the quarterfinals, but not right now. And 2-0, Craig Krempels takes the lead.
Yeah, the mirror is supposed to be really close. But these games, we just kind of watch Craig get ahead, press his advantage.
I mean, each of them was over 30 minutes. I don't know how you could possibly say these weren't just really razor-thin victories.
They were very interesting games, and there were certain cards that Fleischer could have drawn and certain things that could have happened, but it really felt like Fleischer wasn't making mistakes that got him out of these games. His cards didn't line up well against Craig's.
All right, so we're reaching the midpoint here of our match between Craig Krempels and Ryan Fleischer. We have more Magic to go as we see which of these gentlemen makes it into the finals, but we're going to take a quick break and then come back with more coverage here of the semifinal match from the Columbus Invitational.
Join us on the SCG Tour April 30th through May 1st for the Milwaukee Open weekend. On Saturday, play in the Modern Open main event. Every competitor gets a playmat featuring Ghost Quarter, plus our latest Invitational Winners token just for playing. The top 8 finishers earn a spot in an upcoming invitational and get one step closer to the Players' Championship. On Sunday, it's your format, your tournament, as you choose between Standard and Legacy Classics. All participants get an Invitational Winners token, Standard players receive a Sigarda Heron's Grace playmat, Legacy players receive a Thalia Guardian of Thraben playmat, and the top 4 competitors in each Classic qualify for an Invitational. There's plenty more to do in Milwaukee. All weekend, play in side events and earn tickets to spend at the SCG Prize Wall. And don't forget to tune into SCG Live as Matthias Hunt, Ryan Overturf, and Nick Miller bring you coverage all weekend long. The Milwaukee Open weekend is April 30th through May 1st. Step into the spotlight. The StarCityGames.com Creature Collection presents Grizzly Brand. Get sleeves, playmats, player bundles, and more at go.starcitygames.com/creature collection. The StarCityGames.com Creature Collection presents Slobber and Mile Driver. Starting in April, get sleeves, playmats, player bundles, and more at go.starcitygames.com/creature collection. If you're looking for more Slobber and Mile Driver, check out Game Night. Bringing friendly competition and exclusive prizes to stores worldwide, Game Night features Slobber and Mile Driver tokens and pins all throughout April. Head to go.starcitygames.com/gamenight and find a store near you. The StarCityGames.com Creature Collection presents the Zebra. Get sleeves, playmats, player bundles, and more at go.starcitygames.com/creature collection. On April 23rd and 24th, don't miss the StarCityGames.com State and Provincial Championships. With Standard on Saturday and Modern on Sunday throughout the United States, Canada, and Puerto Rico, there are plenty of chances to become a champion. Every player that registers receives an exclusive art print, top 8 competitors receive an exclusive playmat and pin, and each champion receives a championship playmat, medal, and an invitation to any of the next 3 StarCityGames.com invitationals. Each event will also include an oversized token door prize customized with their location. Visit go.starcitygames.com/states to learn how to become a champion today. The StarCityGames.com Creature Collection presents the Tiger. Starting in April, get sleeves, playmats, player bundles, and more at go.starcitygames.com/creature collection. The StarCityGames.com Creature Collection presents Grim Llamamancer. Get sleeves, playmats, player bundles, and more at go.starcitygames.com/creature collection. The StarCityGames.com Creature Collection presents Grizzly Brand. Get sleeves, playmats, player bundles, and more at go.starcitygames.com/creature collection. The StarCityGames.com Creature Collection presents Magus of the Moo. Get sleeves, playmats, player bundles, and more at go.starcitygames.com/creature collection. On May 20th through the 22nd, make plans to be part of Modern Weekend and Magic the Gathering history when StarCityGames.com proudly presents Grand Prix Charlotte. Register for the Modern Format main event to compete for thousands of dollars in prizes and receive an exclusive playmat featuring Jace as he pores over the pages of Tomio's journal. Select the 3-day Infinite Challenge package to compete in all challenge events for one low price, while also walking away with the exclusive Jace playmat. Add a premium rewards package and take home a collectible pin, deck box, 80-count pack of sleeves, and playmat, all featuring the iconic Noble Hierarch. Play and select side events for even more chances to win additional Noble Hierarch pins, deck boxes, sleeves, and playmats all weekend long. And don't forget to come say hello to Grand Prix Charlotte's many special guests, including cosplayer Christine Sprinkle and an artist alley full of fan favorites, headlined by guest of honor Rob Alexander. Be part of Modern Weekend and Magic the Gathering history. Register for Grand Prix Charlotte today.
Welcome back here to the semifinal coverage of the Columbus Invitational. Matthias Hunt and Ryan Overturf here in the booth, where Craig Krempels has taken a 2-0 game lead over his opponent Ryan Fleisher. This is the winner here will be facing Max McVitie in the finals for the title of champion of the season 1 here on the SCG Tour.
Yeah. Fleischer going to need to win 3 games in a row to be able to clinch that final slot. And it looks like he's going down to 6 to try to do it.
Yeah, Craig on a 7-card hand, he's going to keep it. So, if for those joining us, talking about the beginning of this match, and just kind of like how Bant Company mirrors work, each time, once you got into about the 25-minute mark, it seems like Craig has had just more creatures in play, more lands in play, more cards in his hand. And the question is, how do we get to that point? You know, what strategy is he doing to get him there each time?
Well, you're able to generate a lot of card advantage with Duskwatch Recruiter, with Tireless Tracker. You're able to keep drawing spells. Your lands help you draw more spells. You know, if you're drawing cards, it could be more lands. And then you also have Nissa Vastwood Seer that can go find you another land. If you're able to flip it over, that's more cards. It's really difficult to run out of cards in these mirrors. In Craig's quarterfinals matchups against Logan Mize actually mulliganed to 5, and I think he ended the game with like 3 cards in hand.
Yeah. So, but okay, if all of Craig's cards get him more spells and more lands, and all of Ryan's cards gets more spells and more lands, how is Craig being so much better at it?
Well, we did see in Game 2, Fleisher missed on a Collected Company.
Okay, that's huge. That one I get. And
Right.
that costs you games. Company players of all formats will tell you that.
Right. You know, it's fine sometimes to use 2 mana, 3 mana to get a card into your hand. Using 4 mana to just do nothing, things are going to start getting better for Craig, and they're going to snowball out. Because when you're ahead, cards like Reflector Mage, cards like Bounding Krasis, they let you press advantages.
Yeah, one of the things I actually really like is the card Tireless Tracker. Seems like a perfect example of this. So Tireless Tracker, when you play lands, just has this snowball effect where your lands turn into cards, turn into more lands, turn into more cards, turn into more, repeat, repeat, repeat. And it seems like once Craig starts pulling ahead, he just compounds it each time.
Right. You know, Fleisher on the play here, he did keep his 6, so his plan is to be the one that gets ahead this game.
All right, so Ryan is kept on 6. He has a 2-drop on the play. This is the first time we've actually seen any of the players do this. Normally they've been trading tap lands. It's a copy of Sylvan Advocate. Now, Craig has ended the last 2 games at 20 and 18 life points respectively, which, so he's hardly been hit at all. I imagine Advocate is going to be a source of damage. Does it matter?
So on the turn 2, sometimes you're able to get in that chip for 2. Unless Craig has an Advocate of his own, he'll be going down to 18 minimally. Though once we get up to 6 lands, that's when the Advocate really starts to matter.
Well, it's like that kind of thing. So say if Ryan, fouls this up with a Reflector Mage and then maybe just plays another creature, can he, I guess, to put it, all our games have gone late and gone to the 10 land point. Is there a chance that Ryan can, I guess, aggro Craig out of the game?
So what happens, you're able to take a slightly aggressive roll, maybe get Craig down to approximately half of his life total.
Okay.
Closing the door is actually a matter of being very far ahead, though. It's going to take a number of turns from that halfway point. You're only halfway in the life total, He's going to be playing more creatures. He's going to be catching back up. It's not difficult for this deck to do. So you can get aggressive and get ahead, but unless your opponent stumbles on mana, the game should go pretty long.
That one Reflector Mage can undo everything. Now, some interesting developments here. Craig on his second turn had some mana difficulty. He's White Blue Dual Lancer, Prairie Stream, and Port Town, so he could play neither. So he played the Prairie Stream tapped and passed back to Ryan Fleischer, but then he was paid off in a big way. Ryan missed land number 3, attacked for 2, did nothing.
Oh, geez.
So Craig's play was play Port Town, play Jace, go. If Ryan doesn't hit runner lands, this may be over.
There's step 1.
Step 1, he hits it. It's a Port Town, so he still has no plays. But
here's the thing about that, though, is if Fleischer is able to just peel lands, he's got all spells in his hand. Craig can't close the door quickly. His only creature in play has 0 power, so he'll have time.
Yeah, but the thing is that these lands have seemed great. So last game, Ryan Fleischer got up to 5 lands by turn 5, but Craig got up to 10 lands and then stopped. But Craig got to 10 lands by turn 10. And actually the fact that Ryan just slowly fell 5 lands behind is what I think made the board state unwinnable for Ryan.
Right, that was definitely a big part of what was happening that game. Of course, if Fleischer has like a Nissa Vastwood Seer, he's up to 3 lands now, so that will enable him to make his next land drop.
And here come the cards for Craig. A play is Tireless Tracker and then Evolving Wilds. So Clue, and when that Evolving Wilds gets a basic land, it's going to be another Clue.
I'm kind of surprised that Craig just didn't crack the Evolving Wilds right away. You're not really giving away information. He knows you're a Bant deck. You have a bunch of colors anyway.
That's the technically correct play. Reflector Mage from Fleischer will bounce Tireless Tracker, but before it does, Craig will crack the Evolving Wilds, gets basic planes, second Clue, then the 3/2 goes to his hand. And for Fleischer, runner lands did happen. It was a Evolving Wilds the second time, but he may still be in this.
Yeah, I would definitely say this is way too early to discount him here. Again, Craig only has a 0-power creature. That's kind of understating his position. He's pretty close to having a Planeswalker, though flipping Jace right now would be really bad for him.
Yeah, Craig is at 14 from these attacks. That's a high number, but it's starting to show chinks in the armor. In game 1, Craig chip-shotted Ryan down to 9 in the early games, and that actually ended up being the reason that Craig won, is that Ryan was forced into blocking about a turn earlier than he wanted to.
Mm-hmm. If Craig is able to continue to develop his mana, which the looting from Jace will help him to do, he'll be able to be casting 2, maybe 3 spells a turn, and that will put pressure on Fleischer to continue to develop his mana as well. If they're not able to keep pace with how many lands Craig plays, it will be a problem. Though he hasn't played his 5th land just yet. I believe he has it.
Yeah. Jace will loot away the Tireless Tracker. 2 clues, that's enough for Craig. At least for now.
Yeah, and with those 2 clues, it's unlikely that Craig will stop developing his mana. So
yeah,
even though Fleisher is ahead on the damage race, that as we all know as Magic players, the scoreboard is not what matters for a game.
So I guess the idea is if Craig land floods, he has these clues to crack, and if he runs out of lands, well, then he doesn't need more clues. So Tireless Tracker is not necessary in either situation. Craig's going to play Bounding Krasis. Jace, to untap the Jace, Jace will loot again, turn into a Planeswalker. Now it's the Telepath Unbound. It's kind of what we talked about where, okay, Ryan had a good aggro plan going, but Craig is just stopping it cold. Yeah, Dromoka's command, the Lizard will fight away the Elf. Lizard becomes a 4/4. Jace makes the Reflector Mage a 0/3. And yeah, Craig went from empty board, or from board of just a Jace to just fine, and it didn't seem like it took much work.
Yeah, that was a solid turn of events for Craig. He was able to bubble the only creature he left on Ryan's side of the table and remove the potential 4/5.
All right, well, Ryan, he finally gets untapped with 4 lands. That will be a main phase Collected Company. He wants to dodge any sort of negate or dispel. We find Reflector Mage Tireless Tracker. For Ryan, that one's going to definitely make up for the bad Collected Company last game.
Oh yeah, those were solid hits, and I believe that his pickup for this turn was a land as well, which
Beautiful.
would be great for the tracker.
Yeah, Lumbering Falls at that, so he gets a clue. Now that 0/3 Reflector Mage, that can't attack. Well, I suppose it can attack, but no reason for it to.
Right.
And look at the swings here. So we went, Ryan was up 2 creatures to Craig's Jace. Now Craig takes a turn. Craig has a 4/4 to Ryan's 1 creature. Now Ryan takes a turn. Now he has 3 creatures to Craig's 0. It's just big swings back and forth.
Right, and on Craig's turn, the Jace is now a Planeswalker. He could do something like play a 3-mana creature and flashback Dromoka's command to fight the tracker to slow down the value on Fleisher's side of the table. 2 creatures would also be really solid here. Use the Jace to bubble or Reflector Mage. So Craig is still in a solid position. There's a lot of work to do yet.
It feels like we're playing a game of tennis and they're just hitting, you know, the hardest shots they can back and forth. And I'm seeing like, all right, can you hit this one back? And Craig's hand, I think he's not done.
There's not a ton of tennis players that continue to volley back this well an hour and a half into a match of tennis. But
no, it's a grueling game.
I appreciate most of your analogy.
Jace will bubble the 2/3. We see Sylvan Advocate and Reflector Mage were the plays for Krempels. The Reflector Mage put Tireless Tracker back into Ryan's hand. And throughout all of this, I want to make one pointer. Throughout all of this, Craig is maintaining an excellent defense. Are we having to consider a Jace emblem?
Well, it's never something that's out of the question, though. As soon as you start drawing Collected Company, flashing that back is almost always better than going for that emblem.
Okay. Yeah, there are some Planeswalkers like that where their ultimate is very good. I remember, was it the very first set of Planeswalkers? I remember the card Liliana Vest, thinking, this -8 is really neat. But the question is, well, if I get up to 7 and I can just cast Vampiric Tutor every turn, you know, really, what kind of deck am I playing where that just doesn't win the game anyway?
Right, and the thing about Jace Prince Prodigy, I have ultimated the Telepath Unbound a couple of times, but it was always when I was playing that Sphinx's tutelage deck.
Sure.
And milling was the actual only way I was winning the game anyway. If you have other stuff you want to do, specifically with how powerful Collected Company is, you're usually taking the most advantage of that -3 ability.
An anemic turn here for Ryan. He cracked that clue, found a land that came into play, tapped, played it, and said go. This is a grand opportunity for Craig to make some roads here. If we go back to Craig, he's going to crack a clue. And interesting, both players with these main phase clue activations, is it possible that they value the land drop more than making a creature?
It's not only possible, it's absolutely true. The thing is, Craig has, 6 cards in hand yet? He wants to be able to cast, if it was all possible, 3 spells in 1 turn. You know, he could do that for 2 turns and still have drawn 2 additional cards from here, right?
Yeah.
So making that land drop allows him to just do so much more, and even with cracking the clues, he can still play 1 3-drop. He's off of casting a second 3-drop anyway.
So he took 1 stab at finding the land. He didn't get it. I don't think he's going to crack that other clue just yet. He'll pass the turn. Fleisher is going to put a Lizard into play on end step. That's the Bounding Krasis. It will tap Reflector Mage. And especially Craig really wanted that land. He has a Sylvan Advocate in play.
Right.
Yeah, that would have been land 6. And actually, Ryan has pulled ahead on the land count. Something that he hasn't gotten to do yet. He's been playing with the land deficit every time for the first 2 games. But now he has the land lead.
Right, we'll see if he's able to capitalize on that. He has a Jace that he probably wants to start pressuring here.
This matchup's interesting. I guess I'm starting to wonder whether or not land count is what matters, almost more than anything else.
Yeah, for as many creatures are in the deck, a lot of the fundamentals seem very similar to actual control deck mirrors, where you just want to hit your land drops every turn.
Well, you can have as many cards as you want, you can have as many creatures as you want, but the one thing that the rules stop you from doing is you may only play 1 land per turn, so you better make sure you do that.
Yeah.
These 2 creatures are going to attack Jace, both. Craig, though, he's ready at the blocks. Krasis will come into play, untapping that tapped Reflector Mage, and looks like we could have some mirrored blocking. I'm curious, if Craig is only devoted to flashing back collected companies, he'll let Jace take some damage, but if he wanted the emblem, then he's going to try to block everything. Ryan, before blocks, after the Crisis activation, is going to go for Collected Company, see if he can get maybe some mages or lizards of his own.
Yeah, Craig is tapped out, so it's a great window to cast the Company. In particular, since it is in combat before blockers, he can mess things up there too.
Oh, Ryan had a great Collected Company earlier and a medium to weak one here. Just 1 creature was found on that Company, but it was a Bounding Crisis.
You know, just a Krasis out of his hand would be pretty good here. The tragedy is that he wasted a Collected Company to get there. Right.
He'll re-tap. Well, he'll tap the 3/3 instead this time. So now Craig can go to blockers. He has a pair of 2/3s being attacked by a 3/3 and a 2/3. He has some free blocks on the Reflector Mage.
Yeah, I assume that we'll just see mages bouncing off of each other. That Advocate is just 1 land away from becoming a 4/5.
All right, so he's going to take the free block. He'll double block the Reflector Mage. Means
Right, yeah. Because the mage won't be able to kill either of the 2/3 creatures.
Right, so the mage goes down, but the Jace takes 3 from the lizard. So emblem game off the table for Krempels.
I'm still not convinced that was, anywhere near the plan that he was on, but it is definitely off the table.
Yeah, it's off the table. Maybe it's not his plan. I mean, but that's what Ryan's attack doing, was making sure that it wasn't part of the plan, right?
Yeah, if the game just progressed where he was able to easily make an emblem, and he is ahead on cards, we could have seen Craig do it.
All right, the last play on Ryan's terms, Declaration in Stone on the Sylvan Advocate. This one's out of the sideboard. We have seen a lot of main decks this weekend, but the idea here is Craig is dangerously close to a 6th land. When he does that, 4/5 is a great wall. Yeah. So
Craig slow-rolled himself a little bit there, ended up picking up a Plains as a draw step here. I don't think that in most situations where you slowly peel a card, basic Plains is the card you're looking for, but it's a great pickup here for Craig.
Any land, especially coming into play untapped, would have been welcome for Krempels. He could use a Lumbering Falls, I think. He doesn't actually have one yet this game.
Yeah, on this turn specifically, though, the untapped land to play 2/3 drop seems pretty big.
Tireless Tracker to play, and then he'll play that Plains, get a 3rd clue, play another 3 drop. It's Reflector Mage. And Craig is back on this plan where he's ahead on cards now. So they're even on lands, even on creatures. Craig is ahead on cards.
And this is the first game where this has been true and Craig has been behind on life total. So we're going to see him be pretty conservative, even relative to how he has been previously about how he wants to break through in combat. But you're absolutely right. He's just ahead on cards and getting ahead on board as well.
So he debated playing 2nd Reflector Mage, but then reconsidered. Because Fleisher was tapped out, he used Jace to -3 down to 2, flashback to Dromoka's command, and just fought away the Bounding Crisis on Ryan's side. Also getting his Reflector Mage up to a 3/4. 3/4 is a key stat here. 2/3 is, in this matchup, 2/3s seem small and 3/4s seem huge.
As Craig would say, he's a big boy.
Tireless Tracker, speaking of big boys there, that guy gets real big.
Oh, he starts out pretty small, but the land to follow up will help him start to get there. Give him time.
He'll play a land to get a clue, then play Duskwatch Recruiter from Fleisher. We had seen very little of this creature in the post-board games that I was wondering if Fleisher had kept it in. At least some copies still remain in the deck. So now we're back to Krempels. Draw is, hey, talked about it before. How about a Lumbering Falls?
Yeah, given that he left one mana up last turn, with that sequencing, the Lumbering Falls would have been better last turn, but still really good here.
I'll take it here. Craig up at the top there. You see off the top of the screen, he does have 3 clues. Hasn't really needed to crack them yet, though.
Nope, with still plenty of cards in hand.
2 Reflector Mages, Archangel Avacyn, Lumbering Falls. He's got it all. And here come the attacks. Tireless Tracker is a 3/2. A 3/4 Reflector Mage, just big enough to beat any one creature up in combat. Bounding Krasis, that one good too.
This attack gives away the fact that Avacyn is in Craig's hand.
So even without Avacyn, Craig may be able to make an attack like this. So if these creatures trade, then it's an attrition game. And I would think that the clues on Craig's side will mean that Ryan would run out of cards first.
Right, and my comment wasn't necessarily with reference to the board state exactly how it exists, but it's more in terms of how Craig has played the first 2 games of the match. He doesn't get this aggressive, and he hasn't gotten this aggressive. So you know when he's making this attack that he's not trying to goad you into anything. This is just a really good attack for Craig. He's not messing around with trying to nickel and dime you. This is going to be a powerful swing.
So Ryan's got to suss out here what's going on. So Craig, the one thing we talked about being ahead on cards, yes. Being even on creatures, yes. But Craig's behind on life totals. If you're Ryan, an appealing line here will be to say no blocks, take it all, and then hit Craig back with all your creatures. Maybe you win that race.
Yeah, you're cracking back for 10 here, 11 when you crack your clue, 12 if your tracker flips. That's most of Craig's life total. The Jace will shrink something in this combat here, so you won't be able to assemble lethal on the crackback.
But it looks confusing, right? Ryan didn't have any good attacks last turn. And now, if I'm in Ryan's seat, I'm a little confused that Craig's attacking me. I'm saying, well, Craig seems to have control of the board. Why does he want to race now?
Right. This is a very out-of-the-ordinary attack for Craig, and he could even be he's representing things like having Bounding Krasis to untap his Reflector Mage and make a good block next turn.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part about this deck. With 6 mana up, he's representing so many different tricks. That's why this deck, many people are saying, is reminiscent of Fairies and Lorwyn standards. There's just so much going on.
Well, it's really interesting. So Craig has him in a bit of a bind. If Ryan blocks, Craig can make Archangel Avacyn. If Ryan does not block, Craig can play 2 Reflector Mages. Bounce 2 creatures, shrink another one. Board's pretty safe.
Yeah, he's not just representing a lot of things. He also just has a lot of things.
He has them all on top of it. That's what I said. It's not just a representation. He's just got him. So here's a block. Both the Krasis and the Reflector Mage are on Tireless Tracker. No other blocks. And I like this. Craig's not going to make the Avacyn play. He'll just trade away 2 creatures, deal some damage, and now my guess is bounce or shrink Ryan's whole board.
Craig could have sacrificed all 3 clues to trade, assuming that Fleisher had no tricks. Of course, that line doesn't make any sense when you have a great hand.
Reflector Mage will reflect Tireless Tracker. Second Reflector Mage comes out from Krempels. That'll bounce Duskwatch Recruiter. Land. Jace will go ahead and shrink Reflector Mage. Now, you got to say, Craig could have a 4th clue here. Tireless Tracker started in the turn. Come on.
Rats.
Come on. The value you miss. If you need that 4th card, Craig Krempels.
If Craig Krempels needs that 4th card,
then I don't know what's happened in this game.
I will buy you a steak dinner.
Yeah, Ryan stuck with just 1 creature on the board. A lot of cards in his hand, but he can't cast them all. The rules dictate that. Reflector Mages, they're doing their work.
Reflector Mage doesn't have a hobby, it only has a job, and it does that job very well.
Is Wizard a hobby or a job?
It depends on what your passion is.
Reflecting things.
If you enjoy reflecting things magically, then it's a passion, it's a hobby. Maybe you are professional, maybe you get compensation for it, but what it is foremost is your passion. It's not a job. Now, if you magically conjure burgers,
all right,
we're in job territory. You're doing it to make a living.
What if I like burgers?
You will grow to not like burgers if you make them all the time.
I've worked in food service before. That is a very accurate statement. even when you work at the place of the food you love, you stop loving it.
When you can get it for free and you stop eating it, it shows that something is not lining up.
All right. We're back to Krempels. Ryan, unable to play more blockers because of the Reflector Mages. And now it's going to be a big challenge for him to survive this attack. Krempels starts the turn with 4 attackers, 5 if you count Lumbering Falls. Has a Jace, has 3 clues. Has now pulled ahead on life points. And it seems like the four ways of looking at the game. Who's ahead on life, who's ahead on cards, who's ahead on creatures. I guess maybe just the 3 ways to do it. But still, Craig and Craig. So we go to Craig's beginning of combat, and now Ryan is going to try for a Collected Company. He's going to need it to hit big.
Craig crossing his fingers.
Craig, you need to save that for the finals.
Well, he just blew it because
he did it. It worked.
He jinxed Fleisher, but not in the spot where he needed to.
Yeah, and it worked. Fleisher just hits 1 creature. It's Reflector Mage. I mean, it's not. You spent your 1 time too early.
Yeah, you got to save that stuff for the finals, or at least a game that you're losing. At least when you're not up 2 games in a match.
Reflector Mage will take care of the Bounding Krasis. But that's not even good for Fleisher because Craig's going to use that Krasis later on, and it's going to be good when he does.
Right. Removing a blocker, Fleisher will be able to get out of combat this turn, but that Lizard's going to make it harder to get out of combat on future turns, that's for sure.
So a note here about Reflector Mage, in case you're wondering about Flash creatures and Reflector Mage, Ryan had to bounce a Bounding Krasis. Because of how Reflector Mage reads, the owner can't cast spells until your next turn. It means on the very next turn, on Ryan, like Craig can end step that very same Bounding Krasis.
Right.
He doesn't have to wait till his own next turn. He can do it on Ryan's end step.
It's a pretty brutal return.
So no attacks. The Krasis and the Mage did their job for Fleisher. But he still is on the ropes. He has to survive. Not to mention these uncracked clues just hanging out. Do you have a clue token of choice? You played enough yet?
The Wrench.
I like that one.
Colonel Mustard's also a pretty good clue.
So I was going to say I liked the Stained Glass Avacyn. But you're right. Yeah.
You're one of those official clue users.
I like it because it draws you Avacyn.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's a well-known fact. If you crack that clue token, you will draw Avacyn.
It's kind of like if you open the pack with a Charizard on it, you'll open a Charizard.
Yeah, that's the one.
Don't open those Venusaurs. They're useless.
Am I the only one who, before I draft at a local game shop, I definitely trade with people to make sure all 3 of my packs have the same art, and I usually try to have it be the best card?
I trade with people just to psych them out. I don't line up the arts. I just offer people trades, and people get really weird about it.
And then when you open a good card, you reveal it and go, wow, so too bad you traded this to me.
No matter what pack it came out of.
Right. And then everyone's just like, dang it, Ryan. Back to Ryan's turn. He plays Nissa, flips her into the Sage Animist, has a Tireless Tracker. This is a good turn for Fleisher.
Yeah, so it's time to find out what Craig is going to do with this 8 mana, because this is a great development for Fleisher. You got a Planeswalker here. It's going to generate advantage, has more creatures for the board.
Yeah, so we're on the end step. He's going to start out by drawing a card off a clue token. Draws Lumbering Falls. Remember, he does have that Krasis in hand, which I assume will eat some of the mana here. He also has an Avacyn in hand. He's just going to make Avacyn, actually.
This is the most aggressive playing of Avacyn we've seen from Craig in the top 8.
This is the most aggressive anything from Craig we've seen in the top 8.
Yeah, this game specifically has been very aggressive for Craig.
Ryan will go ahead and crack an Evolving Wilds. That will get him a second clue from the tracker. You know, if Craig doesn't, Ryan may have pulled even here. Not even, maybe even's too strong a word, but he's getting closer. You see, looking at this, okay, he's still behind on life total. Creatures, he's now even. Cards, he's getting pretty close on cards.
Yeah, if he has, say, a Dramoka's command to throw his Lizard at the Avacyn here, that would be a good swing.
Yeah. We'll see what he can do. Craig can try to return that shot. Draws a Bounding Krasis. So he has, I believe, 2 Lizards now.
Given the positions currently, I imagine that Craig will be attempting to use Avacyn to attack down Nissa. We're far enough away from actually killing Fleisher.
He'll draw a card off a clue. Now, Craig's hand is land, Den Protector, Krasis. If he wants to continue this aggressive line he's been taking, he certainly will have that option. And the Archangel will go at the Planeswalker. The 3/4 Mage will go at Fleisher.
Yeah, and so the reason for this attack here is that if this Reflector Mage gets blocked and dies, then the Avacyn gets to flip and kill a bunch of creatures on top of that.
Right. Okay, so he wants this to happen.
If it attacks and lives, he either just ate a Reflector Mage or got in for 3 points of damage.
Wow, so wait, this means... So Ryan might lose his whole team here. All right, so Reflector Mage trades. Nissa is taken down by the Angel. Now, something about Archangel Avacyn, if you read the card here, see... While though she initially wanted to protect her humans when one of them dies, when she fails at her job, you know...
She gets real mad about it.
Yeah, she becomes a changed angel.
So with Avacyn, this is a job. It's not a passion.
Now she fails at her job. Now it's her passion. She must purify everything.
She is on edge all the time, and now she has had it.
3 damage to everything. And what Ryan's going to do is during his upkeep with this trigger on the stack, he's going to crack 2 clues so that the Tireless Tracker grows all the way up to a 4 toughness creature. A 5/4 and survives the purifying.
Craig just holding that Avacyn up. Listen, I'm not flipping this back if I don't have to.
That's too much work. Yeah, he's doing this with the trigger on the stack of transforming.
So technically, we're still looking at the 4/4 side.
Yeah, all right, Craig, I've been holding this card too long. Okay, do your thing. And while she's still 4/4, now Dermoka's command is going to go ahead and have the Tireless Tracker fight the Avacyn. And this is interesting. I wondered whether or not Ryan maybe wanted it to flip. It kills, I don't know, stuff of both players. Maybe not. That's too much.
Yeah, you know, the tracker would survive, but so would the 6/5 Avacyn.
Yeah, okay. Craig will crack his last clue. Draws a card here. It is... Oh, hey, it's another Archangel Avacyn. Well, now it's... You see how after that, some pep goes into Craig's steps. Says, yeah, that's fine. I lose my angel now.
Yeah, whatever. Is it my turn yet?
Yes.
Not enough mana to cast the Avacyn just yet, but far ahead enough on life total where he's not under any duress just yet.
Evolving Wilds from Fleisher gives him another clue token. We'll give him a second one here, too. With so much flash, 2 Krasis and an Avacyn... It's interesting. So I'll go back. We've seen Craig always try to gain board control and win each game with board control. This game is the first time he has another option available. Between 2 Krasis and an Avacyn, he could go for life points instead of board control. You know, just flash on end step, chip some damage in, flash Avacyn end step, push that damage in. We'll see. So 2 more clues. Ryan will play, or 1 more clue, he'll play Duskwatch Recruiter. Now ahead on creatures.
For now.
Yep. Okay, I guess short-lived. Bounding Krasis into play. I'm going to try to tap something. Ryan will go ahead and get that land with Evolving Wilds. Presuming he has another basic left in his deck, and he does, he'll get another clue.
Yeah, these decks play plenty of basics, so you just have to have a high threshold in order to enable your Prairie Streams.
Yeah, he has 8 basics, so they're not really worried about your Evolving Wilds running out of targets. Your Nissa sometimes can run out of targets.
Right, with just the 3 basic forests.
Yeah. We saw that with Craig Krempels game number 2. He almost ran out of targets for it, but still didn't. Looks like Evolving Wilds, the draw for Krempels. What about the art? I believe it's the Ugin's Fate Evolving Wilds.
So it's a rare.
I think it's still a common. It's just a common that's hard to find.
Those are words that make sense together. I like when people talk about mythic uncommons. Like, I've heard Reflector Mage referred to as a mythic uncommon. Like, I cracked an entire box and I didn't open any. It's a mythic uncommon.
What does that mean?
Well, it means that they got the wrong spot of the sheet. That's what it means.
Oh. Is Sensei's Divining Top a mythic uncommon? Is that how that works?
Sensei's Divining Top used to be part of a deck called Chase Rare Control, so I assume it's a rare.
Okay. A swing of creatures. Craig now going on the damage plan. Mage, Krasis. I wonder what he'll play. Ryan's going to double block the Krasis. Yeah. Any guesses? Any guesses as to what's about to happen?
Well, Avacyn would be too easy, so...
Okay.
Never mind.
Well, it is Avacyn. It's the second copy of Archangel Avacyn. She enters the battlefield, once again protecting her flock of humans and fish lizards from...
Yeah, Craig says, we've been playing this for almost 2 hours. I'm done with hard mode. Easy it is.
We'll put him down to 7. Still leaves up enough mana for that other lizard. And now we see the abandoning of board control, and his target is set on Ryan Fleischer's life total. 7 more damage, and we'll send Craig to the finals. So Ryan, he's going to need more cards. He'll crack a clue, grow the Tireless Tracker up to 7/6. Three more mana. This will be a face-down morph. Could be the...
It could be the Dragon
the
Slayer.
Dragon Slayer,
It is
yeah.
not the Dragon Slayer.
It's Den Protector. This is one of those situations where Ryan's doing a lot of things, and I think because he has all this mana and cards, Ryan's actually now ahead on cards, even on creatures. But we talked about how the one area where Craig had lost the lead on creatures, lost the lead on cards in hand, but he never lost the lead on life total.
Right.
And this pivot where Craig recognized that he was about to lose the card lead, and suddenly he changed his strategy.
And
that's been really well done.
While the Den Protector was not, in fact, Hidden Dragon Slayer, it does give him something that will kill the Avacyn in Dromoka's command.
Dromoka's command.
Of course, Craig representing a lot of mana. It's unclear if this fight's going to go off without a hitch.
One card in Craig's hand, it's a Bounding Krasis. Ryan really has run Craig out of cards. If Craig cannot find a way to get that last point of those last 7 through, this may be Ryan Fleischer's game. So the Tireless Tracker, that'll fight down the Archangel. Reflector Mage will get a counter. That is the second Avacyn in the graveyard now for Krempels. I believe that is both his copies. Yep. No copies in the sideboard.
Does have a Sigarda Huron's Grace, which would be a good draw here. But, yeah, no more Avacyns.
And the Duskwatch Recruiter going to attack now. Oh, Craig's tapped, has all his creatures tapped. This is a bold move by Ryan to attack with anything here. It said he'll say when attacks are final. Yeah. Correct. I think correctly does not declare it as an attacker.
Yeah, he's at 7. It doesn't take much for Craig's deck to be able to get his good blocker off the table.
Yeah. One thing to know is that when you're held to an attack, it's a verbal thing. Ryan says, these are my attacks, or he says, to ask his opponent to hold. So we go to Krempels. Did not use his Krasis, didn't see an opening for it. Now there's another option available for him. He's drawn Duskwatch Recruiter. So with that card, he might be able to pull back ahead on cards in hand. If he wants to switch modes and try to, I guess, value play once again. He has another play in mind, though. He has got a Den Protector here.
Den Protector, mana to unflip it and get an Avacyn back into play.
If we play Avacyn every turn of the game, is that enough? Maybe we'll find out.
If that's not enough, what realistically could have been?
Yeah. He's going to play Den Protector. Now play Duskwatch Recruiter, so the flippin' Avacyn play is off the table. He's going back to the card advantage plan. I think he wants to leave up mana to flip Den Protector and activate Duskwatch Recruiter.
Yeah, Fleischer's board's gotten close enough to his that he understands that he's actually under some duress here.
Even on creatures, maybe even on cards now, game is pretty close.
Yeah. And we're not even in territory where it's guaranteed getting Avacyn back. There could be a need for something else.
So we go to Ryan Fleischer. draw. Didn't pick up the draw just yet. Both players with a lot of lands and Duskwatch Recruiter. At this point in the game, that card could draw nearly their whole deck. And then I guess about what cards are in your deck.
Right. You're probably stopping before that point, you know, play some creatures, and hopefully one of them could end the game. This point, it's looking like the player who's advantaged to actually close is Craig, but the game is far from over.
Well, one thing is that the Avacens are still in Fleischer's deck. So Fleischer has successfully gone through both of Craig's Avacens. I mean, I guess he could still have to go through the Den Protector, but the Avacens are... Craig has yet to answer Avacens. Ryan goes to attacks. Craig is going to use the Bounding Krasis in his hand to tap Tireless Tracker. Can we reach stalemate here? Does milling ever become an issue? Sylvanap gets the play from Fleischer.
I don't believe with players who know the ins and the outs of the matchup that it can become an issue. It's difficult to determine the types of attacks you can actually profitably make, and I could see less experienced players passing when they're supposed to be getting aggressive, and then the game just snowballing beyond any reasonable semblance of a game of Magic.
Both people have 20 creatures, and then at that point, there's never a good attack.
Right. With players of this caliber, I don't see Fleischer or Krempels allowing this game to go that way.
Now, I do have an interesting thing. I have yet to see a Tragic Arrogance from Krempels, and I've yet to see a Planar Outburst from Fleischer. Is it possible those cards are just still in the sideboards?
100%.
May even be probable at this point, since we haven't seen one yet. Craig on end step uses his Den Protector to get back to, well, of course, Avacyn.
Yeah, and with Fleischer, we have seen Dispels out of him, and we just see so many main deck cards here.
Seems like the sweeper might be at home.
Yeah, just choosing to fight over collected companies and on the board with creatures.
Here is activation of Duskwatch Recruiter from Krempels, and now he's going to go digging through his deck. Finds a Tireless Tracker. Just everyone drawing cards whenever they please.
Well, who's going to stop them? I think that this deck would be really sweet to play if there weren't a mirror match, you know? If I was guaranteed to play against not this deck.
I want to be the only one doing these things. If my opponent does it, then it's too much.
I hope that Jim Davis and
I hope they feel
Kevin
good about
Jones
themselves right now.
The Jessups realize how good they had it last weekend.
They're the only people doing this?
Yeah.
Lumbering falls to play from Krempels, and another pass of the turn. We need some. Next week, we'll see players. Now I think that this deck has established itself as the top of the meta. You need some big ramp deck just to come down and put a stop to this.
So, could we emergency make a card legal and standard?
Ugin.
Just like
if Ugin was still legal and standard, this would not be happening. Because then there'd be some guy who gets explosive vegetation. You'd look at this whole board and say Ugin -3, and then this would be done.
I'm blanking on the card name. There's a card that people sometimes sideboard in Legacy. It's black and 2, destroy all green creatures.
Well, it's Perish.
Perish.
Yeah.
Okay. I had Perish at the tip of my tongue, but it sounded too stupid. That's not a very good card name. But Perish. Yeah, let's just make Perish legal and standard. That'd be great.
No, they just get them all back with Den Protectors. And
They just perish again.
We have to exile them all. They have to, the graveyard is not good enough.
Emergency Fate Reforged is still legal and standard.
It'd still be a great deck, but its ramp matchup would become bad if Ugin was around.
Well, they couldn't kill a face-down Den Protector with the minus ability.
All right, we'll go back to Fleischer's turn here. Recruits once here, and then his creature flips into the Howler. The Den Protector has been shrunk. Were it to get up to 4 power, it would actually be able to attack past Craig's blockers. Ryan still has the biggest creature on the board with the Tireless Tracker. But right now, it just seems more about quantity of creatures than anything else. Remember, there is still an Avacyn in Craig's hand, and both players know it. And it's a Sylvan Advocate from Fleisher. These are all costing 1 mana less, thanks to the Kralin Horde Howler.
Yeah, the card's just kind of great on both sides.
Yeah, it draws cards, it makes things cheaper. It's pretty good. Now, Ryan's going to keep going for creatures here. It's been amazing that Ryan has actually found himself back in contention in this game. I want to say about, half an hour ago, I really felt that Craig was going to 3-0 win this.
Yeah, we saw Craig taking on that aggressive role in this matchup, and as we discussed before this game actually started, unless you stumble on mana, nobody's just going to kill you in the Bant Company mirror.
Yeah, well, Craig looked like he had established an endgame position where he was just going to win with card advantage. But Ryan actually took some outs to gain himself more card advantage to get back in. And that forced Craig into an aggressive role, an uncomfortable aggressive role, which Ryan was able to parry, and now both players have to re-fight for endgame control.
So great pickup for Craig here. Peeled a Collected Company off the top of the deck.
So at some point here, these collected companies are going to matter less as their decks actually start to run out of creatures. I mean, so it's interesting. If we both have 5 creatures or 4 creatures in play, and I go up to 6, that's very relevant, right? Because now you're down. But if we both have 9 creatures and I go to 11, there's a good chance that didn't change anything.
So some time ago, we were talking about Jace Emblem. On the table, off the table.
Is it on the table yet? He's got 9 counters on it.
Yeah, Craig's Jace just went up to 9.
I think Ryan has to care at this point.
Absolutely.
We look at. I don't think Craig's going to attack him to death. I mean, maybe.
So,
but it's not the easy way. Is for Craig just to say, okay, I have an emblem. I'm completely on defense. I'm going to mill you.
Yeah, Craig still has that Avacyn, so it's going to be hard for Ryan to do much about this.
Yeah, he has more creatures.
He has to get aggressive to go after the Jace here, and we all know how well that works against a flashed-in Avacyn.
And this emblem could be what sends Craig to the finals.
It's really funny that the emblem could be the way we go in the game that Craig got more aggressive than any other game.
Well, there was that turn where the Jace got attacked down from 8 to 5, and then Craig put it down to 2. This is the same Jace.
Right. It's been around for a while.
So we will go back to Fleisher.
Jace is kind of a lingerer. He just hangs around.
He's going to have to find a way to deal damage to this Jace. I don't know that Fleisher... it's going to be difficult for him to beat the emblem. It'll force him to be aggressive on a board where I don't think he's ready to be aggressive yet. Also, I can't imagine Fleisher has more than 30 cards in his deck. We're not talking about very many triggers of that Jace emblem.
Right. And in order to win on the board that he's already facing, he's going to have to draw some extra cards. He's not breaking this parity very easily. He has to casting spells and drawing cards of his own anyway.
Declaration in stone on the Bounding Krasis. 2 more clues for Craig. That's fine. Yeah, he's clearing away some blockers. He's got to get damage on this Jace. There are a pair of Tireless Trackers. If he has another Declaration, maybe he can get rid of them as well.
That would be huge.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm looking for Steven Salskar. If you're in the room, please come up to the stage.
Reflector Mage on a Tireless Tracker. Well, in response, Craig will go ahead and crack an Evolving Wilds, get 2 more clues.
Not leaving another one of those on the table.
No. He missed one about 6 turns ago.
He learned his lesson, as we can see.
He did actually run, after missing that clue, he did run out of clues at one point. I don't know how much that mattered, but it did happen. Let's just point out. The missed clue did matter.
If we look at the facts and the facts alone, the facts are that Craig missed a clue trigger and ran out of clues.
There we go. Craig in hand has a Collected Company and an Archangel Avacyn. So here's a swing from Fleisher. It is going to be the Reflector Mage, the 2 Sylvan Advocates, the Tireless Tracker, the Den Protector. That's only a 1-2, but yeah, it could still go at Jace. He just needs to get it not at 9. And the team, the Duskwatch Recruiters, we'll see if they are at Craig or at Jace. I actually wonder whether the right play is to send them at Craig.
We're forcing action one way or the other.
So if I win after forcing action, I guess I'd rather get Craig's life total than Craig's Planeswalker. Ryan's going to go the other way. He's going to try to take care of Jace.
We know that there's an Avacyn that's going to make this attack not very impactful on Craig's board immediately, and we also know that Craig is untapping with a lot of mana.
So here's Archangel Avacyn. Trick that Ryan knew about. So all of Craig's creatures will become indestructible. It looks like damage will land onto the Jace, so it won't get to make an emblem. The question is, how much is Ryan going to have to pay for that?
Right, you have to line up how much damage the Jace can take and weigh that against how many creatures you can kill for free with your indestructible blockers. If we just throw creatures a bunch of... We can make it so that Fleisher only pokes through for 4 damage on the Jace if we just block creatures 1 for 1 and take up the most damage. And that's fine. I imagine what we're going to go for here is just trying to kill the most relevant creatures that we can.
So it appears to be 3 cards on the Sylvan Advocate, 2 more cards on the other Advocate. Craig went for some kills, but Ryan with an Archangel Avacyn of his own makes the whole team indestructible. So the only casualty of combat there is the Telepath. But it takes a full 9. So it's not like Ryan knocked it down some. He straight up killed the Jace.
And given the fact that the Avacyn was there, that would have made blocking as many creatures as possible a better line.
Okay, so if the creatures, and this is an important distinction, you might wonder, if he can deal 9 damage to Jace, why didn't he just deal 9 to Craig? And if the attack was at Craig, he may have just spread out those blockers as opposed to trying to actually kill Ryan's creatures.
Right, he would not have dealt 9 damage to Craig.
Craig counting, seeing if maybe he has lethal on the swing back. Ryan did pay a big price in tapping all of those creatures.
If Craig has a Declaration in Stone of his own, that would be massive.
He does. Declaration in Stone takes care of both Sylvan Advocates. Ryan is down to 2 blockers, 4 attackers on Craig's side. If he has a Krasis, this might be lethal.
He has some Lumbering Falls
he has
hanging
some
out in
Lumbering
his
Falls?
lands as well.
And Ryan's tapped out.
This looks lethal.
So the action on Jace forced too many taps from Ryan.
Active enough mana for both Lumbering Falls?
So we have Lumbering Falls, 2 Reflector Mages, an Avacyn, a Duskwatch Recruiter, a Den Protector. There aren't enough blockers on Fleischer's side, and that's going to be the game and the match from Craig Krempels.
Sweeps his semifinal matchup in the Band Company Mirror.